The story begins with the choice. The old man extends the red button. You click. You will get 1,000,000 years of workouts. But is it possible? The hero stands, healing under the purple moon. He touched the button with a trembling hand. And pressed. 1,000,000 years have passed. And only then did he realize. Became the strongest among all. Once upon a time, the hero trained every day. He honed every movement. 996. A blow. 997. Another blow. His name is Alan Radorva. He is 15. He studies in the 3rd year of the higher school of fencing. 2 guys passed by. One recognized Alan and called a failure with his sword. The other, with disdain, added that the worst fencer has not yet seen. Alan knew that the academy was moaning. He is called for a failure and laugh at his strength. His mother saved so much that he sometimes lacked even food. To avoid ridicule, he went to train elsewhere. His goal is to become a big swordsman and repay his mother's debt. That is why he had no right to surrender. A beautiful guy in a gorgeous suit and with 2 charming companions came in front of him. He smiled and regret Alan, because he was in vain. The guy decided to give him a friendly advice, to quit fencing and choose a normal profession, because it would be better. Alan asked if Dorel really came for this, and waved his hand carelessly. They say that he did not care, but Dorel did not stop. He continued to humiliate Alan, wondering how his parents could raise such an unnecessary guy who could not even hold the sword. The apple from the apple tree, he added, and then struck her, saying that Alan's parents were garbage, and he himself. From the very beginning, he is doomed to be nothing. Alan clenched the sword's arms with both hands. His gaze broke out. With a threat in his voice, he demanded that he take his words back. There was no answer. Then he shouted louder. His mother was the best for him, and he would not offend her. Dorel smiled abusive. He liked Alan's anger. But no matter how he tried, the garbage will remain garbage forever. He laughed that Alan was not able to dodge even a simple blow. That is why he calls him. Alan challenged Dorel. The girls near him did not believe their own ears, and Dorel himself was surprised. Does the failure challenge the schoolmaster? But the hero insisted. Dorel laughed. He promised, if Alan wins, he will give up the image and even bow to him. And if not, Alan should leave the school immediately. Sleeping. Dorel asked if the hero was accepting such a condition. Alan opened his eyes wide. He did not expect such a turn. Alan accepted the call along with harsh conditions. Having said that, he turned sharply and ran away. The match was assigned tomorrow at 9 a.m. Now he had to train more than ever before. His rival is Dorel, a real fencing master. During the year he became an expert and still had no worthy enemy. Clouting loudly, the hero waved his sword on all sides, honing every blow. He trained so persistently that he did not notice how it was dark. Hands are erased to the blood and on the face. Determination. The rain began. Alan stood. He lacked strength. He fell into the dirt, knocked his fist and whispers that he wanted to win. He wants to make Dorel give up his words. A salt and an old man appeared in front of him. The rain stopped suddenly, although the sky remained gray. The old man combed his beard and gently asked if Alan had problems. He asked who he considers him. Alan replied that he was like a hermit of time. The old man smiled. A pleasant answer. Alan is a student of a great fencing school, but foolish. Everyone considers him a failure and do not believe in him. His mother lived in the city herself and supported his dream to become a swordmaster. She is a wonderful person. Alan promised to do everything to be proud of him. The difference between them is too big. He is not afraid to leave the school, but will not be able to live with the thought of having gone, and without forcing Dorel to take away the insults to the mother. The old man said he believed in his strength, but Alan sadly replied that he did not know how to become stronger. The old man stood up, leaned on the stick, and held a red button in the other hand. He said, "It was time to listen," and stretched her to the hero. This is a 1,000,000 years button. By clicking it, the hero will get into another world and train 1,000,000 years there. No restrictions are only progress. In addition, he will receive a house, a giant bath, and an endless warehouse with food. It will be a real feast. Just press the button. The old man confessed that he could get the perfect body but did not want to. Instead, he offers this chance of Alan. Meanwhile, the hero was already training with his sword again. He tried not to listen, but the old man insisted. Don't 1,000,000 years of training sound tempting? Only once, just once, and you will not regret. Alan stopped, listened, and thought, and suddenly is this a chance to win Dorel? He laughed his head. There was no sun, but everything around was filled with light. No shade. It was definitely another world. He pinched himself. Painful. Before the eyes, a giant watch. If the old man did not lie, this timekeeper will count 1,000,000 years. Alan decided he will withstand. Alan decided that if he can train 1,000,000 years here, then be sure to win Dorel. This is a chance, and he will squeeze him every moment. Look at the clock. A long time has passed. The stomach grumbles. Hunger could not be ignored. Entering the house, the hero was surprised. He was larger than it seemed. He found the kitchen, but did not understand how to use all the accessories. The gaze fell on a huge cabinet. He opened it and realized this is a magic pantry. And even with the name Noah Hotel, just incredible. On one shelf, vegetables on the other, fruits. Now he himself, and can eat what he wants, how much he wants. He took the tomato and bite. The taste was pleasantly surprised. He smiled and began to grab everything that seemed delicious. Satisfied, he decided, time in the bathroom. Searching for a bath, he opened one of the door and came across a giant pool. The perfect place to relax. Sticking into the water, he began to wash. The body relaxed. He felt easily and happily. After bathing, he went into the bedroom with a large bed and fell on it. It was fine here. To train in such a place is a real gift. 10 years have passed. During this time, Alan began to understand the true essence of fencing. He opened his eyes. A new stage has come. He learned to overcome fatigue, to properly transfer strength to his feet to the thighs, and from there, to the sword. His feeling became more acute. The blows became so accurate that he hardly heard their sound. Everything has become much easier. He began to give his movements names. It seemed to him that he created his own style. He remembered his mother and hoped that everything was well with her. Felt loneliness. It has been 2,000 years, and the food had no longer tasted like stones. In 5,000 years, he thought, do I really become stronger? Isn't it time and place? And suddenly I'll forget everything when I wake up? Alan, he was afraid. What happens to him? Why does he torture himself all these years? It has been 7,000 years. He no longer understood who he was. He trained silently, screaming in the void, holding the sword in 2 hands. He remembered how he was called a failure, but it was not true. He knew. He was not weak. His family was called garbage, and it too. But he is obliged to win. It should prove the opposite. He cheered himself with one. Just continue to wave his sword. That's all he can do. And he continued. After 10,000 years, Alan opened a new method, a fight with himself. He struggled. The noise did not subscribe until the tired guest in Taverna reminded they forgot where they were. It was an eternal war without end. But it was she who laid the fire of fencing in his heart. He thanked himself for this fight. He became stronger, not only the body, but also the soul. But still doubted. Would Dorel be able to win? Dorel is a genius that is born every 100 years. He studied the legendary art of Shigrara's sword. Among the students, he is an undeniable favorite. Alan looked at his hands. He knew, now he will not win. He had no special talent. But time is a mysterious thing. If focused, it will be able to accelerate the flow. But he did not have time to change anything. Time was exhausted. The end came suddenly. Standing silently, he saw 1,000,000 years passed. The numbers on the timing were no longer moving. He was engulfed by fear. And what? How did he never find the strength? And suddenly, everything has changed. He was again in the same place near the button. The old man was waiting for him. It was strange. The old man said that 1,000,000 years had not been in vain. But Alan felt nothing. The old man advised to check it, in fact. Just take the sword. Alan laughed. The hand reached for the weapon, as if it were led by some inner impulse. It was unusual. The old man laughed. Isn't that great? Didn't you expect that, young sword? Alan looked at his hands and asked if it was not a dream. A few sweeping strokes. The movements are perfect. The old man laughed again. As if you were born again. But the hero felt, this is not enough. With such movements, do not defeat the Shigrara style. His predecessor created deadly equipment only after years of fighting and endless training. Alan had neither technique nor genius. You need something more to defeat Dorel. A breakthrough is required. The old man reached the button again. Alan did not believe the eyes. He thanked. This time he will definitely find a way to win. He pressed the button again. But someone's voice called him. It's time to wake up. Alan opened one eye and muttered. What is the hour? The voice demanded to stand up, then went into a cry. Alan scared his eyes, frightened. He was lying on the grass. He sat sharply and began to think. What day, month, year? Everything seemed unreal. He shook his head and whispered, "I don't even know where the hermit is, time." The woman came, leaned and said she saw how he could sleep anywhere. She asked if everything was fine with him. It seemed like a nightmare was dreaming. Alan smiled, scratching his back, and saying that he did not remember yesterday. She answered sternly, then the march to the hostel. He got up and apologized. She added, "If she does not eat breakfast, she will have to throw it away." He didn't understand anything. Was everything that happened was just sleeping? And here he saw a button on the ground. He lifted it, twisted it in his hands, pressed several times. He smiled and thought that it was probably just a dream. Then he threw the button on the ground. The woman called him and asked what he was doing here. Alan replied that he was already going. The button is left to lie broken in the grass. She fed him. Alan thanked the shower. She noticed that he had eaten with appetite today. She showed the clock. 7:50. She asked if he had a class. The boy's eyes expanded. Today at 9 o'clock the battle with Dorel. And to go to school for almost 3 hours. He will not have time. Alan said he should run. The woman wished to be cautious and not injured. He ran everywhere. At the entrance he apologized and said he was late. The professor was sitting in the hall. Today at 9 a.m. His duel with Dorel Button. The professor watched the documents and said he had time. There is a lot of work. There was an hour left before the battle. He showed the clock. It was only 8 o'clock. Alan went on, not understanding how it turned out so that he came on time. At the entrance he stopped a little, nervous. Gathered with forces. We need to focus. He will meet with Dorel, having all his work out behind her back. It may not win, but it will not seem. Alan stopped, squeezed the sword, exhaled, and opened the door. But for some reason he was met without joy. Dorel stood in the center of the hall. He laughed and said that he respected him for appearing, without escaping. Batten replied that it was not his guilt. He was surprised. It seems that someone has told everyone. And he laughed. Apparently it was one of the students who told everything. She wanted to humiliate him in front of everyone. But the school should not allow it. It would have. The students shouted from all sides, "Give this loser! Every day waits a sword like a fool." One said, "Alan should be thanked. Loses the best." The door dissolved, and the professor came to the hall. The hero was surprised. He looked at the clock and solemnly announced, it was time for the duel between Dorel Button and Alan Redorva. Alan hoped that the professor would stop the fight. But he did not think to do it. It turns out that the school is against him too? The professor asked if both were ready. "Let's start a duel." The hero knew that he had a little chance, but it was too late. Dorel's style was dangerous. The attack on the forehead will not pass. It is necessary to evade and hit the open side in the right moment, Alan decided. He gathered, occupied the battlefield. They stood opposite without moving. Why doesn't he attack? What is waiting? The hero wondered. Suddenly Dorel exclaimed his name. "What did you do?" Alan didn't understand what it was about. "Don't pretend, you are worthless!" The opponent became angry. Dorel laughed. The audience did not understand what was happening but incited him. "Strike the first!" Dorel gathered. He clenched the sword firmly. He swung and rushed into the attack. It was Shigrara's style attack, a fiery blow at high speed. The hero thought he would not have time to dodge, but he could. At the last moment, Dorel's eyes expanded. "What? He evaded?" he exclaimed. It was the first time Alan escaped his blow. "The next will be 3 times faster," said Dorel. "This time you will not be lucky." He used Shigarira's secret technique, the eternal fault, and rushed forward with his outstretched hand. Alan was ready. He clearly saw every movement of the opponent. The speed has increased, but the hero saw everything. Gathering, he prepared for a blow. "Come here." Alan lifted the sword. He remembered how Dorel made fun of others, and met him with a powerful blow. Dorel flew away and fell with a deaf curtain. He could not get up after such a powerful blow. Silence reigned in the hall. No one could believe what he had just seen. Alan's eyes were widely revealed with surprise. He couldn't believe what he had just done. In one movement he struck 7 blows in a row. All this power struck on Dorel. The professor rushed to Dorel, trying to bring him to his senses. So, the old man, the button and 1,000,000 years of training, all this was true. He declared the defeat of Dorel Button. The winner is Alan Redorva. The hero did not believe. Isn't this a dream? Thought. A few days after the duel passed, the situation has changed. Alan continued to train. He was now called a fraudulent, but no one dared to contact him. Everyone was afraid to repeat the fate of Dorel. The rumors widen. They say, he won dishonestly. Students became even brutal, provoked fights. But Alan never remained in debt. It was only through a grueling workout that he became strong and always punished those who were mocking others. He was no longer offended by the face, but behind his back gossip. They called the failure, the shame of the school, the coward who won through tricks. Once he would not stand it, but not now. He was quietly walking in the city. When he saw a woman with her baby, he remembered his mother. His heart squeezed. He saddled after her. The mother already knew that the son would come on vacation. He planned to buy her gifts. She loves senbei and sweets. Alan imagined her surprise when she saw it. He thought, how much money he has in his wallet. He shook his contents on his palm. A little. Decided, we need to find a job. The nurser said she knew the place where he could earn money. Alan was happy. Asked where it is. She started looking for a postcard and replied that of course it would help. There he will be able to make good money. Finally, she found a postcard and showed it. Alan looked and was surprised. It's something, the woman explained happily. Yes, everything is right. The swordsmen in the city of Orbis are held on a monthly basis. There you need to believe in yourself. Participants compete by demonstrating their skills. The winner will receive an exceptional award. Only a real warrior can earn it. Fencing tournament, it will be difficult. But Alan thought he would be able to win at least a few duels. A good idea, but to register you need 1,000 gold. The woman asked whether he went crazy. She cares about the house and its inhabitants. If he does not have money, she will give. She trusts him. Alan rejoiced and asked, seriously? The woman replied, of course. But in exchange, she wants him to try to the full, and to promise it. The hero promised he will do everything in his power. He is grateful to her. Now his goal is to win in the tournament and to obtain the main prize. But suddenly he was trembling. All this seemed like a joke. Looking at the participants, he understood. Everyone has a much better sword than him. He probably was too naive. The first thing he decided to register for the tournament. Suddenly, someone pushed him from behind. He turned, apologized. Before him stood a chunky warrior with a murderer's gaze. He called him a squeak and said that there was no place to play in the war. One of the satellites addressed the warrior. Babel, is it normal to cling to the weaker? Another noticed the sword in Alan and suggested that he may also be a participant. The third laughed. It's hard to believe that this guy will survive at least until dinner. Alan thought that these people were very rude. The Basham gouted his teeth, tensed, and asked, what stare? Do you want to fight? His power seemed superhuman. Alan calmly replied, first, you pushed me. But mentally hesitated. The quarrel could cost to participate in the tournament. The Babel addressed the girls. There is nothing to talk to this failure. The hero sighed with relief. The fights were avoided. Alan decided not to waste time and returned to registration. For a long time he could not find a steady reception. Finally noticed a tent with magical symbols. The girlfriend called the next. Alan approached. I want to register for the swordsman's tournament, she reported. Participation costs 1,000 gold. Alan stretched her sum without hesitation. The girl thanked and asked to name the name and style of fencing. The hero called himself Alan Radorva, but could not answer the style immediately. He did not want to voice it, but he still admitted, this is his own style. The girl laughed and said she understood. His own style. Alan was ashamed and scratching his back. After registration, he went and thought, it was a little awkward. Only crazy would say it aloud. But he decided not to get hung up and focus on the tournament. She looked after her and thought that she was very beautiful. I wonder if she also participates in the tournament. The mayor of the city came to the stage. In his welcome speech, he was glad that the tournament would happen quietly this time. But his smile slowly changed to the grimaces predatory. The mayor continued to shout into the microphone. Who wants to see the blinding glow of the clash of swords? This is a war where the strongest swordsmen will come together in battle. Heroes, show your skill in this unforgettable tournament, he exclaimed. A crowd of shawl. The atmosphere was electrified. Alan felt he was about to eat. The mayor calmly completed the speech and asked the participants to go to the waiting area. Leia asked the mayor not to worry so much. This time she only came to look at the bullies. It seemed to her that it was a good word. The mayor understood the hint. She liked the previous champion. Leia was confirmed. She was interested in the winner of the last Rosa Valencia tournament. She wanted to see her with her own eyes. And yet, to find a hidden treasure among newcomers, though not too much hoped for it. The voice of the presenter sounded loudly in bell. Thank you all for the expectations. I am Final Vat, your craftsman ceremony. She promised to explain the rules of the tournament with a smile. Fighting is one-on-one. The one who kisses the opponent from the arena or makes him unable to fight. Murder is forbidden. The violation leads to disqualification. Alan thought that the rules were simple and understandable. Fina lowered her hand to Latratron. Now let's find out who will fight first. She pulled out the cards and loudly announced, the first duel, the Domingo Bar against Alan Redorva. Alan was frightened. He did not want to be the first, but there was nowhere to retreat. He moved to the arena. The bauble immediately recognized him. What is the hell? I will cut this little one now. He quarreled. How could such a toddler dare to come here? Alan also recognized the one who pushed him in the back on the square. Fina-chan announced in the microphone. According to my data, the blonde uses the style of Congo Bowl. One of his blows, and the enemy flies into pieces. It is an ancient and very powerful sword style, and Alan uses its own style without borrowing. The audience stopped and then laughed. Well, do not let yourself crush, boy, shouted from the crowd. Show your style until you have made mashed potatoes. Alan bowed to the lobe. I'm ready. Leia looked out of the VIP. She noticed the guy does not seem even in such a situation. Determination at this age is a rarity. Fina asked, Fighters are ready? After the confirmation, she announced, In this case, let's start the battle. The pod lifted the sword with both hands and rushed. Alan was maximally concentrated. After 1,000,000 years, how good did he become with a sword? Now he learns. Alan raised his sword over his head. He started with the first technique he created during training, the style of flying shadow. And their blades collided. On the face of the lobby, a terrible animal expression. Eyes poured in rage, like a predator. The blow was extraordinary. The pod only made a strange sound, and the battle ended. His body flew out of the arena and fell with a roar. He no longer moved. The presenter stood in numbness. The audience was silent in the stands. Leia's eyes became round like plates. A round, dead silence. Alan himself was shocked. He stood, lowering the sword. He did not even have time to realize. The girl he noticed after registration looked at him. Now a little more confident, she declared a cheerful voice in the microphone. Alan Redorva is the winner. No one was waiting for such a result. One blow is, and victory. The arena exploded with applause, and the hero did not believe the eyes. Is it true? Was his blow really so strong? But he stands here, the winner, so it's not a dream. He began to believe in himself. After that, he won 5 more fights in a row. Even in the boldest fantasies, he could not imagine the same. And finally, the finale. Fina-chan opened the final match of the tournament, thanking everyone for patience. The last match begins. There are 2 in the finals. The first is Valencia Rosa. It is the girl who liked Alan during registration. Everyone knew her, the heir to the secret sword style Okido. She won all her fights without any scratch, elegant and perfect. On the other side of the arena, Alan Redorva, a nugget who created his own style and does not follow none of the known. He is no longer underestimated. No one dares to make fun of his skill. From the stands, the screams of support were heard. You are unique. Someone asked to make him a student. Someone confessed to love. Alan was confused. He heard something like this first, but now you need to focus. He bowed to the rival. For me, the honor to cross with you in battle. He admired her. Rose is the previous champion. Her name is known to everyone. Victories are perfect. She caught dangerous criminals and handed them to the holy knights at his age. She is talented, deadly, and at the same time, stunningly beautiful. But even with such a fragile body, she is able to defeat anyone. Cannot be underestimated. One must be careful. Alan pulled the sword. The rose was already in the battle rack. Fins-chan started commenting on the battle. Both are evaluating each other. They are looking for a moment for attack, she said. The rose went on the attack, but Alan again evaded. She glanced in surprise. How did he do it? The hero noticed a breakthrough and attacked himself, but she skillfully evaded. And in the stands, one guy exclaimed that he wanted to become his student. The other immediately replied, You are a fool. Alan and without you have enough. The battle lasted. Rose asked who taught Alan to own a sword. He hesitated a little, but answered himself. She did not believe. Don't lie. Your blows and years of training are felt in your blows. It's not a newcomer technique. You can pretend to be a fool as much as you want, but… She rushed on the offensive, Okato style. A sharp blow. Misakura. But despite grace, Rosa has not reached the perfect level. Small vulnerability windows remained between the blows. Surprisingly, Alan also had a technique of 8 beats. And right now, he used it, though completely different. It did not have any weak space in its combination. Rosa screamed, "It's the end!" Alan gathered all the power in one breakthrough. 8 beats within one movement. The concentration is maximum. Rose was protected in the style of Yatagras Tudos, a higher-level defense technique. She mentally caught, "Incredible. How did he do it?" And Alan already knew everything. End. The audience was crazy. He won. He was raised on his shoulders. Everyone was welcomed. A few days after the tournament, Alan got a call to the headmaster. He thought it was probably rumored that he had cheated in battle with Dorel. Want to punish him? Alan entered the office with the professor. The director smiled, thanked for the visit, suggested tea. Alan thanked and asked why he was called. The director said, "This is a great honor. Our student received an invitation to the prestigious academy." He himself did not understand why he was chosen, but everyone was delighted. The professor joined. "We believed in you from the beginning. At the graduation ceremony, you will tell you about this achievement to everyone." It turned out, they really believed in him. Alan apologized and asked to think about a recommendation. Both, the director and the professor, died. "Think?" said the director. The professor clarified. "Do you really want to give up?" Alan replied that he had not decided to become a sacred knight or a dark sword. He wants to think about everything first. First of all, he wants home, see the mother, talk to her, and only then will he be able to answer this important question. After that, the director and the professor tried to convince him, but Alan remained adamant. He did not allow himself to persuade. Within a few days, he was already fully ready to travel. "I came to say goodbye to the breadwin." She asked if I had not forgotten anything, and whether they took the sweets they bought together. He replied that yes. Going out of the house, Alan decided to warm up a little before running, made a warm up, and moved forward. His path ran through the forest. For 3 hours he moved north, passing the mountains. At such a speed he should have reached. He was happy. He finally arrived in his native village of Gaza. The look from the hill opened familiar houses. It was covered by nostalgia. And he entered the village. Antagonist, Tajaki, was glad to see him. "You got taller as if you grew up for the night," the old man joked. Alan laughed. Sudden height. They were both pleased to meet. After a short conversation, Alan said goodbye to Tajaki. He said that always glad to see him and to come if something happens. The hero continued his way to the village, to the same house where his mother lived. Stopped at the door. The house looked quite as when he left her. As if the time stopped. The mom from the surprise dropped the lid of the pan. She couldn't believe her eyes. They rushed to each other in the arms. She was amazed at how he grew up. Alan replied that he was now a little larger. She said she had not seen him for a long time, and asked if everything was fine with him. He confirmed. She noted that he even said otherwise. A real adult. The dish is almost ready. Alan decided to help. During the dinner, he told his mother a lot, both about the tournament and the candy he bought with the powder. He wanted to share everyone, Mom just smiling. Then Alan lingered and confessed. He wants to talk about important. Asked if it was possible. She calmly said, "Of course. What happened? Are you worried about the future?" He confirmed. Told her about doubts, a sacred knight, a dark sword, or an academy of 1,000 swords. 3 paths. Which one to choose? She smiled. "Are you going through that? It's easy. And he is not for him." "Didn't you go to the Academy of Thousands of Swords?" asked Mom with his eyebrow raised. "You will not fool your mother," she added. From a young age he dreamed of being a sword. He was constantly training, holding onto his sword. It has always been him. They both became quiet and calm. She stroked him on her head and whispered, "Don't worry about me," she said with a smile. Once we discussed everything, the time of dinner. On the table she filed Alan's favorite stew. "It's been a while." And she suddenly froze. It was alarm. It seemed she recognized the voice. Meanwhile, the old man, calmly, shook his spoon in the toothless mouth. She looked around her shoulder and saw him at the table. She said with anger in her voice that it seemed strange from the very beginning that food disappeared. She thought it was an imagination, but it was a hermit of time. They knew each other for a long time. Meanwhile, Alan was relaxed in the bath and enjoyed. Homemade hot bath is the best, right? Sleeping in the water, he thought how time he was flying quickly, and that his mother was already a little older. I have fun, remembering how much time you will have to study. But it will definitely become a big sword, as soon as possible. The hermit said that Alan was well hidden, and it was extremely difficult to find it. Now everything has become clear to her. She immediately rushed to the old one. She came in to hit the back and asked, "What about going out of here now?" But she missed, and spread the table to priests. The hermit only muttered that he had not eaten anything delicious for a long time. Then he began to disappear, dissolving in the air. His last words, "I hope we will meet." She stood among the fragments of the table, clamping his fist. Coward. The door suddenly dissolved. Tajaki entered. He did not believe that there was a hermit here. She replied that he had just disappeared. Tajaki asked, "Do you think he used that thing?" It was about Alan. She confirmed that Alan seems to have pressed a million years button. Her name is Darius. This is how Tajaki addressed her. He did not understand how a hermit was able to find Alan. He was well hidden. It was not necessary to happen, Darius thought. They were silent. And then she suggested that Alan may be in a situation where his emotions were taken. In the letters he wrote that all is well, that he was fun, but how did it happen? Everything indicated that the hermit did everything to prevent them, but this time it will not allow him to disappear with impunity. Later, Alan left the village of Goza and returned to the Hotel Poroson. He was glad to talk to his mother, and for the first time he did not worry about the school. But when he learned that he needed an interview to enter the academy, a little lost. "I trained 1,000,000 years, he said in an interview. The professors did not understand what he was in mind. However, it was eventually allowed. "Thank you." Subsequently, a letter came with a decision. The director said he had not yet heard someone's interview. Alan slowly jumped the envelope. The heart was beating. Suddenly refused, but the letter was confirmed. It was accepted. Alan joined the academy, Thousands of Swords. He was in the 7th heaven with happiness. A month ago they mocked him, called a failure. And now, the academy. Life can change instantly. He ran to the kitchen. "Poroson!" "I did it. I was accepted," he exclaimed. Poroson was surprised. Alan confirmed and showed her a letter. Poroson took the letter in her hands and, looking at him, said it was just incredible. She was sure that his mother is happy now, and she herself too. "We can't miss this. Such a chance happens once in life." In the evening, a celebration in his honor, and they will celebrate until the morning. Alan bowed to her with gratitude. He then sent his mother's letter, and Poroson staged a small holiday. A few weeks have passed. Poroson escorted him to the road. "Didn't you forget anything?" "No, he took everything." Alan smiled. He bowed. "To live here for 3 years is a real pleasure." She waved her hand. "Don't exaggerate. It's not a farewell forever. I am sure we will see ourselves." Alan could not convey all the gratitude. When they first met, he had neither money nor hope, but she received it. Every morning she woke up, fed, helped in difficulties. "I will not be able to thank completely, but thank you for everything," he said. Poroson wept, covered her eyes. "I grow old, apparently sentimental, but if you hungry, come. I prepare what you want." "Required." He smiled. She added, "I do not know what the academy is, thousands of swords or 1,000,000 knives, but please don't play." Alan winked. "I promise." Time passed, and Alan graduated from a fencing school. He became a student of the Academy of Thousands of Swords. The legs themselves carried him forward. He walked silently, trying to think about nothing. Only forward. Soon the capital of Orestes and the Keeper of the Earth came before him. Alan couldn't believe. Are the Academy dormitories? It is a real big city. It was not easy to get here. Too many temptations around. Finally he found his room. Number 501. He opened the door and was surprised. The room was much larger than he imagined. He looked in the mirror. The emblem on her shoulders looked cool. A sword with a note lay on the bed. He really liked it. This is where my new life begins, he thought. There will be a lot of exciting ahead. Walking on a huge building, Alan noticed that everyone looks like freshmen, but each of them is already strong enough. He heard a conversation with 3 girls. One asked, "She heard that 3 got here this time on a recommendation?" "Yes, and they did not even pass those horrific entrance trials," another added. "The main thing is that we are here." The third laughed. Alan thought that it was better not to say that he was one of those 3. Otherwise, the atmosphere will begin again, as in the academy conjut. He did not want to come back to those dark times. You need to train and find friends. This time he wanted to simply live a normal student life. It would be good not to stand out at the ceremony. Alan hoped that there would be few people there. When Alan came to the ceremony, he fell out. Where so many people come from? It didn't look like a modest start. Leia was performed on the stage. She made a solemn speech as the president of the academy. And now I will introduce 3 students who were adopted on the recommendation: Leia Vesteria, Rosa Valencia, and Alan Radorva. I ask for a stage. Alan grabbed his head. That's everything. End. The game is over, he thought. Only a few minutes from the beginning of the ceremony, and his dream of a peaceful student life was already destroyed. Maybe just hide in the crowd? But Leia waited for him directly from the stage. He sighed and, with his head lowered, went to the stage. There was nowhere to retreat. He looked up. Rose Valencia stood in front of him. She waved her hand. They have not seen each other for a long time. Alan was surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Yes, she just decided to follow you," she joked. "Although not, I'm kidding," she added with a smile. "The ceremony continues. Let's talk after." The participants were instructed to name the academy, and add something at the end. The first was Leia. She joyfully congratulated all present. "I am a Leia Westeria. She studied abroad in the kingdom of Westeria. My style is an absolute rule." Although she was a royal genius, she remained a regular student and sincerely wanted to make friends with everyone. Alan thought, princess of the neighboring kingdom? Even Rosa was surprised. Leia's confidence radiated true royal dignity. The first row spread whispers. "This is the same Leia who has awakened spiritual power in 5 years," said one girl. "Her name is a princess of white and black," another added. One guy whispered dreamily, "Here with her in one class? Forget. They are on the recommendation." "Another level?" a friend replied. The president declared the next, Rosa Valencia. She came out, introduced, called her style, OKDO, and briefly added, "I ask to take care of me." Briefly and in essence. In the hall, the guy whispered, "It can't be. Valencia Rosa is a thinker, graduate of the Sengan Academy with the dark past. I would like to see her style with her own eyes." Meanwhile, Rosa finished, and Alan's turn. He took a microphone. "After such speeches, what can I say? I would just like to escape." But it was late. Silence fell in the hall. One of the guys exclaimed in surprise, "Is he?" The professor came to the microphone here and announced, "This is the introductory ceremony." But the president approached 3 newcomers. "It would be too simple," she said. "There is something else. I have big hopes for all of you." Without listening to the speeches, Alan turned sharply and escaped. Everyone looked around in surprise. What happened to him? He ran straight into the forest nearby. It seemed to him that the president made an idiot in the eyes of all. It was unfortunate. Meanwhile, other students met and discussed the ceremony. Alan felt lonely. The movements that were usually fun seemed boring today. It was already dark, and it became cool. Probably it's time to come back. From excitement, he is all sweating. The bath is just what you need. He found a public bath and went inside. The long corridor led to the male dressing room. He was amazed. The whole building is only for bathing. This day was terrible. He wanted to wash away all this stress. Suddenly, he apologized and immediately hid behind the door. "What does Leia do in a male dressing room?" said his head. Leia looked out of the door and laughed. "I call you to a duel." A little lost, Alan asked on what conditions. She clenched his fist and repeated sternly, "Do you accept or not?" He raised both hands. He seems to agree. Suddenly, the president of the academy, Leia, appeared. She said she heard everything. She literally pulled them to do them. Leia hurried. "We start. Otherwise it will be too late." Then the president officially announced, "Leia Vesteria's match against Alan Radorva begins." Elaine asked, "Is this your mental form?" And with a smile added, "You are a good boy. Why do you collect? Open your mental form immediately," she said sternly. Alan apologized. Sorry, but I'm not capable of that. She asked, seriously? And he confirmed. The president only disappointed and went away, and Leia exploded with laughter. Alan thought, princess with the widest emotional spectrum. He did not want this duel from the beginning. But when you are so underestimated, it is impossible to remain silent. The first style of the sword is Flying Shadow. Leia was surprised, but immediately responded with the technique of white scales. He used the 8th style of the sword, and she, the technique of Yadagras. The fire that flashed was incredible. With one powerful blow, she burned all 8 cuts. Her black flames were a real horror. Alan decided to shorten the distance and moved forward, trying to get to it. Leia screamed to keep him away and called the roar of the dragon lifting around the storm. Alan replied that he had no idea what she was, because he invented it all. But she understood. That's how he won her recognition. His perseverance and years of training became obvious. Leia finally recognized him with a worthy rival. Alan thanked her for such an honor. But the girl did not stop, stated that the skill in the battles without a mental form did not make sense. And she promised to prove it right now. She rushed forward using the style of the Supreme King and struck. Leia struck with all his strength. Alan flew away, barely resting on his feet. The force was unpleasant. Leia, slightly annoyed, confessed. He apparently exceeds her in the skill of possession of a ball. But does he know what he lacks? Her sword, enhanced by the mental form, cannot be defeated only by improvisation. So she thought. And Alan analyzed silently. He realized that Leia reposes her shape too much. Her strokes became more predictable. And self-confidence, its weakness. If you guess the moment, he will be able to hit exactly. The second style of the sword is, the moon is out. The counterattack caught Leia by surprise. She fell, not having time to understand what had happened. Thus, Alan Rodero was recognized as the winner. The president noted, as expected, his strength deserves respect. However, Alan was surprised. Leia is extremely strong. Right now she got up, but that's what he would come to her senses. Leia sat down slowly and asked, what happened? The president replied, unfortunately you lost. It was a real match. Leia exploded the questions. What was it? Why did I lose? What did you do with me? As Alan calmly explained, he predicted where she would appear, and struck it. The cuts made in space are not quite invisible. If she looked at... The princess interrupted Alan's explanation. She was not interested in the method. She considered such technique unfair. But Leia intervened. The match was completed. Alan won. What is a princess now going to do? She asked in surprise what means going to do. Leia hesitated. And suddenly she remembered. The defeated becomes a slave of the winner. Leia began to panic, looking for how to avoid promises. The president noted that the battle was not official, so you can silence the result if both parties do not deny. Alan sighed with relief. Having a princess of another country for a slave is not the best idea. The president asked the princess directly. She is really ready to accept it? The silence was delayed. But everyone saw. Leia-sensei had an interesting nature. The president continued. If Leia had not got into a duel, she could live as before. But she is not looking for easy ways. With the expression of annoyance, Leia finally said she understood. The promise is a promise. It adheres to it. However, she asked not to speak as if she had been forced. She will decide herself, to fulfill her promise or escape. But the solution should be her. The president led them to the Leia's room, but cheerfully announced, slaves must devote themselves to the owner completely. And she said that Alan's things would bring tomorrow. Alan inadvertently wondered. The princess abroad became a slave of a stranger. If they learn about it at home, what will happen then? The president closed the door, smiling. She was funny to watch Leia realize the consequences of her decisions. She thought that all 3 students with a recommendation were real talents. She had a plan. These 3 would represent the academy at the Five Saints Festival. But let's return to the events that happened a little earlier. The duel with Dorel was the same. Defeat is a promise. It is because of this that the current situation does not change. Alan understood. Even if he wanted to break the slave contract, Leia would not have accepted it. The only way is to defeat it in a new battle, he thought. Lee, meanwhile, sat on the floor, losing her gaze. And she was silent. Her uniform was torn. Alan thought that if he looked a little, I would see the real Eden. He was so immersed in thinking that he did not immediately notice it. Leia also seemed to notice anything. How to tell her now? I looked at the room. Cozy, soft toys, pleasant aroma, not at all what he imagined in The Princess. The spacious room, a gentle aroma. But the girl suddenly asked not to look. She is awkward. Alan apologized. He almost missed his chance. But now, the moment when they start to understand each other better. And he will not allow this opportunity to slip. He explained that his attack broke her clothes in front and stretched out something so that she could cover. Alan suggested to abandon the official appeal, but Leia, firmly pressing her jacket, denied. She is a slave. How can you not turn to the owner with respect? Despite its status, it still remained a sword with its own will and honor. And back it was late. The word was given, and she had the pride of the warrior. Alan decided that he wanted to have a relationship with Leia. She may even teach him a mental outfit. He did not have another choice. So he agreed to play according to her rules, in a command form. From now on, he officially prohibits formally addressing him. Leia is indignant. Is it normal at all? But Alan explained. The owner's privilege is to force the slave to do what he does not like. She understood everything and agreed. But she decided to clarify if he really wanted such communication. Maybe he will change his mind. But no. The words do not take back. Then she also asked not to apply to her officially. It seemed strange to her. Alan agreed. We'll call her as she wants. And, as if it became easier in the soul, as soon as he arrived, and so much stupid has happened, Leia decided to clarify who was guilty of everything. It seemed to him, the answer is obvious, but no. So, Alan asked directly. When she dressed in a male dressing room, she suspected a little that something was wrong? Leia was confidently replied. It was women's. But now she has started to doubt. Alan mentally said that this girl has definitely have problems with her head. Both sighed synchronously. Then a new dispute began. Whoever imitates. It was already 11 in the evening. Alan recognized, really late. Leia decided to lie down because tomorrow will be a difficult day. Alan said that she should wash, then wash. Her cheeks broke out. She was indignant. What about the perverted phrase? Alan didn't understand what the problem was, but it didn't matter. Leia got up, moved to the bathroom, and before closing the door, threatened, "Once again you will hide, not forgive." He fled in a panic. Then both sat silently. Leia said it was interesting. They left the rooms at the same time. Alan cheerfully confirmed. She stretched the bottle. "Do not want water." He thanked. They drank nearby, and she suddenly noticed that he was standing too close. Alan looked at the clock. North. He said he was almost falling asleep, and she thought, is it already? She couldn't believe it was her first time. And as if Alan had read her thoughts, he assured that nothing wrong would happen. He would sleep on the floor. So she should not worry. She asked in amazement, "Then you don't plan anything?" He shrugged, already washed, and brushed his teeth. Leia sat on the bed and asked calmly if he wanted to sleep together. Alan shuddered. Did he hear it? Yet he lay down and asked timidly whether to turn off the light. Leia nodded. She lay for a long time, not believing that he did nothing. Finally she got up, sat down and pinched him for his cheek. Alan did not respond. He fell asleep, looked quite defenseless. She began to pull his cheeks, checking whether she was pretending. It is still no reaction. It seemed funny to her. Laughing, she decided to leave him alone. Today, lucky. She returned to him. I didn't think he was bad. A strong sword with deep intentions. Even cute. These thoughts dissolved smoothly in fatigue. It's time to sleep. In the morning, they went to school together. Leia told about a traditional dish from her country. Ramzak. Very tasty, according to her. Alan became interested and said he would like to taste. Leia has promised to cook. There is a store with all the ingredients nearby. Alan walked side by side and thought. Although he was waiting for the night's shock, he slept calmly as a child. He thanked her and said he would look forward to. She confidently replied, "You can rely on me." In the class, they were greeted by the girl, addressing Leia-san, and noted that the day today is wonderful. Nearby, 3 students discussed a strange creature, a woman, sized in the forest. One doubted, the other agreed. The third considered it fantastic. Alan approached and said politely, but they just looked at him cold, and ignored, returning to the chat. Alan starred. Probably because of the dating ceremony, all treat him alert. Then Leia came to the same guys, greeted and asked to talk a little. They immediately changed in the face. Of course, something happened, Leia-san? Alan noticed this sudden kindness. I wonder why Leia decided to intervene. She said she noticed as Alan helped, but they didn't answer. Maybe they were too busy. They delayed, acknowledged, no. It's hard to explain. His voice was too quiet. Leia said with a smile that they were real scoundrels, and this behavior was disgusting. Sorked, the boys were silent. She wished them a good day. And sat near Alan. He asked guilty, but Leia was genuinely surprised. What he apologizes for. She just couldn't look quietly as he was ignored. She said that you should not worry about such people. Alan smiled and promised that he would no longer. Meanwhile, in the classroom, one of the girls whispered the other, "Why is this Leia sit somewhere behind with that guy?" But she just shrugged. Rose, sleepy and lazy, came to the class, soaping widely, as if she had just woken up. She looked at the class. She immediately noticed Alan and Leia, and headed for them. Rose sat in front of them, greeted with the main character and a girl nearby. Alan answered, and Leia was wary. What does it mean? The Rose smiled and replied that all is well, it is not necessary to worry. Alan wondered, is it normal that the school principal is still teaching? Does she have enough time for everything? The director interrupted thoughts. It's time to start a lesson. Although it is too early to talk about it, it had an important announcement of the Holy Festival. The Sacred Festival is a competition of newcomers, where the school chooses 3 freshmen to present the academy in matches with other schools. For students, this is a chance to become famous and be one step closer to a dream, to become a big sword. Alan thought, now it is clear why everyone is excited. The director continued. Usually, participants are chosen through a series of practical tests, but this year everything is different. The choice has already been made. This time the academy will be represented by Leia Westaria, Rosa Valencia, and Alan Roderera. Alan grabbed his head. He almost predicted it. But the director did not have time to register how the guy jumped out of the place and shouted, "No!" The director lifted his eyebrow. What is the thing, Tessa Vermont? I understand why you chose Leia and Rose. They are skilled and experienced swordsmen. But why Alan? No one. I don't know his abilities. Alan got up. Tessa looked at him with fury. Leia bent forward. Do you think that only force matters? 2 other boys got up, supporting Tessu. Is he stronger than us? Said Tessa. Alan sat silently, not understanding why he was humiliated. Is it worth missing because of it? Leia looked at him with regret. She wanted to cry, and asked how he was feeling. Alan replied that everything was well with him, but the director called him by name. He asked in surprise, "What happened?" She rolled her eyes, hopeless. And who is guilty of this situation? Alan sighed. It was silly. He acknowledged that he was frightened, but so happened. The director was surprised. I did not expect you to wear the insult so quietly. Alan quietly replied that he was enough. He got up and went closer. She whispered to the director that it may be better to choose someone else. He is indifferent. He does not want to participate in the festival. Putting her hand on his shoulder, she thanked her frankness and went out to the class. I make Alan's decision. He will not participate. The guy lowered his head. It seemed that she planned it all before. Alan was shocked. The director substituted him. 3 boys got over. One exclaimed that Alan decides everything. The other was indignant. Who did he call it neither? And the third shouted louder than all. If he wanted to die, he will help him. Alan tried to reassure them. He did not say that. But the director intervened. If he is a swordfish, then let him go to the training ground. Alan was angry, and she just winked. The whole class moved to the site. Alan was silent. He did not expect to get here for the 2nd time in 2 days. Tessa took the sword and stated with contempt that he was going to break this pathetic newcomer. Alan focused. We need to deal with them in turn. It seemed to him that it would be easy to handle this technique. But still, Alan easily steamed the blow and knocked the Tessa off. He announced that the match was over, and he hoped that after that they would at least recognize him a little. But the director intervened again. It is unfair. Didn't it be a fight against 3? She declared the battle invalid. Alan did not understand whose side she was. 3 boys surrounded Alan and prepared for an attack. But he understood their tactics. 1 distracts in front, 2 attacking behind. But why has it all happened to him at all? He just wanted a peaceful school life. But fate does not always meet. It is worth starting with the one who stands in front of him. You need to deal with each one in turn. He went on the offensive, used the 8th style of Yadagras, and in response he heard a cloudy style, then a pinnacle. Alan struck a powerful blow. The enemy rejected the side. The victory was behind him. The next was the Tessa. He shouted that Alan did not suffer and rushed. But Alan's blow was stronger. Tessu threw away. The third rival remained, got behind and began the attack. He used the technique of the light of the moon in the style of the new moon, when Leia was crying unexpectedly. The opponent did not even understand how everything happened. Alan used a second sword and a foggy month, so the third enemy was defeated. Leia again saw the same technique as Alan won her. The audience was delighted. They asked how he did, asked how to perform 8 blows in a row, greeted with a shiny victory. Alan thanked. Leia praised him, and Rose wondered what magical focus he created the invisible incision. Alan thanked and clarified whether she was referring to the foggy moon. He explained how everything worked. Rose noted that the technique was really interesting, and Leia said it was like fraud. Alan replied that on the contrary, it is very convenient. Meanwhile, the defeated began to come. He approached Tessa and asked if everything was fine with him. Gradually, all 3 rose. It surprised Alan. The second guy even bowed, apologized, and acknowledged that he underestimated him. He said that Alan was worthy to represent the academy, and the third suggested that he start over. Alan smiled kindly. He should not worry. He has not merged with anyone. After all, the students go hard to get here, and he suddenly became elected to the holy festival. One of the guys said he lost not only in battle, but also in kindness. The second agreed. Tessa summed up that now, when everything is behind, he would like to make friends with Alan. Alan replied that he would be glad. Everyone stretched their hands, folded them on top of one another and shake. The director intervened and asked if someone had a denial of Alan's participation in the festival from the academy. Alan was indignant at her. Why did she say as if others had claims? Tessa reassured. Now everyone agrees that he is worthy. Another guy explained that the Academy of Students is divided into classes. Alan stood among others, rubbing his hands from the cold, and said that this form was too easy for the morning. All were in t-shirts and shorts. Someone sighed that April wounds were the worst. But one guy winked and pointed on the door. Girls went to the playground. They complained about the cold, and one fragile girl barely kept on her feet. The girls were in t-shirts and sports pants that fitted the figure. The guy explained that such clothing is the tradition of the academy. However, most girls could not stand it. 2 guys put their hands like in prayer and whispered, "Thank you, traditional academy." Alan congratulated Liu. She smiled and asked, "Well, how is this a spectacle?" He tried not to look at her and seemed to think deeply, but her gaze made him discover. But even he could not take his eyes. I remembered the advice of Porison. If a girl asks about the appearance, answer that she is very much. So he said. She shone and thanked. Then Leia went to others, and the hero remained with a strange feeling. Why did she ask it? He was called again. Turning, he saw Rose. He asked what happened, and she, as he evaluates her appearance. This time the hero did not hesitate. He said that she was very much. The Rose gratefully smiled and joined the girls. He was confused. Is that some ritual? Suddenly the director of the academy appeared. Her voice thundered louder than the teacher's whistle. Why at all that whistle at all? She announced that there would be a test today. Beginners are forbidden to use their own styles, to evaluate their true skill. The test will consist of 3 parts. The usual incision, 10 beats, and a continuous attack. If everyone is understood, we start with a cut. For those who do not know, you need to stand before the bamboo, take a rack, and then immediately grab a sword and cut it in half. Time is fixed. This man will evaluate the results. He has 50 years of experience, so you respect. The average freshman time is 0.8 seconds. Without saying a word, she approached the bamboo, grabbed her sword, and cut it with one precise movement. The man shouted happily, 0.5 seconds. Great result. Leia was satisfied. The director praised her and called it a good beginning. The next is Valencia Rosa. She used the technique of lightning Sakura. Even the appraiser was enthusiastically commented, impresses. 0.3 seconds. Rosa rejoiced in her victory. Leia rolled up and insulted. Alan smiled. They seemed to get along well. The director noted, as expected from the technique of a one-handed sword. Impressive. Next, Alan Rotorua. He only needs to make a simple cut. Once upon a time it was its weakest element. But now, after a millennium training, how will he show himself now? He approached the bamboo, waved, hit, but the stem did not fall. Everyone died, and the appraiser did not record anything. The audience was silent, not understanding what happened. The appraiser sat without taking his eyes from Alan. The hero asked, "What happened?" The man scolded. Alan asked again, "How many seconds?" There was no answer. He came closer. The director was also interested. Then the judge was already firing from emotions. The appraiser was indignant. "What are you talking about? Alan didn't even cut the bamboo." The hero could not stand. He exactly cut off. He came up and touched the bamboo. The upper part of the bamboo finally fell. A man jumped. "It's impossible." Classmates whispered. No one saw a blow. When did he manage to pull the sword? The director was worried. If the expert with 50 years of experience did not notice the blow, this is already a problem. She asked Alan to repeat more slowly. The hero agreed, though he never thought that he would be asked to slow down the technique at the competition, where they were experiencing speed. Finally, the director announced the completion of the test and praised everyone for their efforts. Leia reported that the training room would be open all day. Alan looked at his results with interest. He grew significantly. He was already going to go when one of the classmates stopped him. The guy asked if Alan's technique was called a flying shadow or something. He confirmed and asked why he asked. The student asked to teach him this technique, and in return offered his own style. Iron cut. Alan refused, they say, not to be a mentor. But the guy pleaded, even called him a sensation, and asked at least to show a little. Alan thought, scratched the back of the head and agreed. The guy was happy. Others also ran. One offered an exchange for the new moon style. The others also joined, even girls. Leia with Rosa also wanted to study. The stream did not stop. Alan urged everyone to calm down and promised that he would try to teach everyone who desires. Then everyone was enthusiastically shared their own techniques and trained fun together, laughing and helping each other. Alan thought he always dreamed of such a day, where the swords and friendships are combined in training without rivalry. Tears came in the eyes, but he hurried to assure it was not tears, just something got into the eye. Someone asked where to start. The hero smiled. Lift the sword. The next day is a day off. Alan decided that this is an ideal opportunity for round day workout. But suddenly Leia turned to him and asked if he was free today. He thought. Seeing his silence, she apologized and asked if he was busy. Alan fluctuated. Training is important, and friends are no less important. He remembered that Leia has already mentioned a wonderful restaurant nearby where Ramzak was served. She suggested having lunch together. He did not deny. They walked the street. Leia noted that today the weather is beautiful. Alan agreed. A wonderful day for training. She scattered. What did he say? Training? Alan denied. It seemed to her. He did not think about fencing at all until he went with her. Alan asked if there was a passage here. Leia confidently replied that she had been here many times. Suddenly, a rose appeared on the road. Seeing Alan with Leia together, she stopped in surprise. The hero explained that they were going to eat Ramzak. Rose did not know what it was. Alan said it was a traditional Vituria dish and invited it to join. She immediately agreed. Leia wanted to deny, but Alan quickly cut off. It's time to go. The waiter asked if they were ready to place an order. Leia ordered assorted from Ramzak, and again began to praise that it was here, the most delicious. Rose was surprised, and Alan said he could no longer wait. In 10 minutes, the waiter apologized for his expectations and brought a huge plate with a mountain of aromatic Ramzak. Leia exclaimed that she just looks great. Alan noted that there are many, but the smell is incredible. The rose confirmed that the aroma is stirring appetite. Leia suggested starting while the dish was hot and wished delicious. The rose also answered politely, joining the wish. They eagerly attacked food. Alan said it was delicious. Leia was satisfied with what warned. The rose also agreed, and Leia added that she was a popular dish from her homeland. Alan said he could not even imagine how delicious it was. Rose again confirmed his words. 30 minutes have passed. Leia said she was a real nostalgia for her. Alan barely restrained and decided to leave the rest of her. But at that moment their views with Rosa suddenly met. The hero wondered why so strange. And then Rosa stated that he would stop adding a respectable prefix. He agreed. Okay, Rose-san. She was angry and demanded, without san. Then he. Okay, Rose. The Rose was happy, so better. Meanwhile, Leia has already eaten the last pieces. She thanked the food and got up. She said she had to move on. They asked to wait a little because they got it, but Leia had already rushed forward and did not stop. After a hearty Ramzak, they strolled around the aquarium, confectionery, department stores, and many other places. In the end, they were in the most famous jewelry store of the capital. The girls in turn tried on the jewelry and asked Alan, or suited. He said, "Incredible. Just don't let in, okay?" The financial power of these two just frightened. If he accidentally breaks something, debts, deductions from the academy and search of work, even in the eye of the mother will not be able to look. Alan sat on a bench and sighed hard. He apologized to the girls, they say, a little tired and wants to relax. She asked if everything was fine, and Rosa wondered what had happened. Alan replied that everything was well with him, just dizzy in your head. He asked not to worry and enjoy the decorations. One agreed, the other warned. If something is wrong, let him say right away. The girls went to talk. Leia asked Rose how many months she needed. 3, standard? Rose replied, yes, but the main thing is the feeling. Alan sat and thought they were talking about. Suddenly, armed people in masks came into the store. They shouted that everyone did not move and raised their hands immediately. One of the robbers ordered the saleswoman to collect all the jewelry to the bag. But she begged him to spare him, but he hit her on his back with a sword. After that, the boys could not stand. They immediately rushed into battle. One of the criminals in a panic asked who they were at all, but it was late. Everyone used their own fencing style, and the robbers did not even have time to react. Rose confidently said they would cope. Alan added, no problem. He decided not to allow one of the attackers to escape. The enemy was still in the area of reach. Alan used the first style, a shadow blow. This lightning reception knocked the attacker off. He was immediately detained. The next morning, someone at the academy told Alan that they had a real furore yesterday. He asked, what is it about? The classmates showed the newspaper, Rosa and Leia, in full height, and Alan somewhere in the background. Although he is small in the photo, the main thing they know the truth. Rose said, even a little success is a success. The article was about the director. She performs work daily from which others would be faint. But at the same time, he behaves calmly and confidently to the students. Leia presented her husband number 18, her servant. The students were confused. Why the number, not the name? The director explained, be careful. This is a convicted criminal. His sentence is 100 years in hard work. Leia was indignant. Why did the teacher brought the prisoner? It turned out that this man had a weakness to the female body, especially for teenagers, and made money on this, working in academies in the country. The girls looked at each other with disgust. It is disgusting. He is the enemy of all women. The term of peeping and escape from prisons has grown until it has been 100 years. Alan understood everything, but Leia did not calm down. Why is such a dangerous man at large? Leia replied that everything was under control. He is obedient because he knows the prohibitions. He suddenly exclaimed that she is the greatest. The director noted that time to move to the main. And she added that beginners probably do not know the history of the academy. Once upon a time, the Academy of Thousands of Blades was the best, and the Ice Academy constantly ranked second, especially at the Holy Festival of Five. Their period was called the Golden Era. But the times have changed. Due to various problems, both academies lost their former glory and were in decline. The public and the media only warm up the situation, uniting against them. Their school gave way to the Ice Academy and now, in the last place in each tournament. Once a worthy rival, this academy no longer fights on an equal footing, but only throws a shadow to the past. The director barely restrained anger. It is not ill. Therefore, the Ice Academy should be destroyed. The prisoner muttered, we cannot lose these scums. She gathered the strongest team of literally last night, not even clicking. The director showed the composition. Alan, Leia, and Rosa. The hero realized why she was so tense. Her plan is risky but logical. Its role is to analyze the styles, tactics, and behavior of enemies. And of course, win. Leia was surprised. Why Alan is an avant-garde? He should be a leader. The Rose agreed. However, the director sighed and hinted, the reason is important. Rosa realized that if they seek a real victory, Alan should act first. Leia laughed ominously. The opponents would not guess that their strongest map is in the first line. The girls supported the idea with enthusiasm. Alan thought it was scared of rivals and creating the illusion of strength. But he quickly quenched himself because he will have to defeat freshmen from the elite academy 3 times in a row. Even one victory would be an achievement, and they clearly overestimated it. Dremley had already imagined the rivals shaking from fear after 3 defeats in a row. Valentine's Day is also the Holy Festival Day. Seeing the list of participants, Leia was shocked. The opponents have no avant-garde and the center, Kane. It angered everyone. Alan was also angry. 2 fighters, and this will be enough against the fallen academy thousands of blades? Leia wanted to change the composition, but only slightly rearranged roles. But the secretary has asked. The rules are rules. Changes are forbidden. The hero understood the indignation of the teacher. But those who do not restrain themselves always find the guilty around. The sensei did not have time to answer because Ferris entered the door and greeted Lai, noting that they had not seen themselves for a long time. It turned out to be the director of the Ice Academy. The meeting was an unpleasant surprise. The teacher asked what she did. I would never think that she was capable of such meanness. Ferris replied that it was not meanness, just a reasonable approach. She turned to one of the guards and asked if she would confirm her words. The guard without hesitation confirmed her words. The girls were clutched again. She cried that the rival had not changed. Did she forget a series of defeat? But Ferris was parry. Their academy has long been ahead. They exchanged images, almost came to the fight. The quarrel broke out with renewed force. The hero silently watched all this and thought, if they are the directors of the academies, what does the country await in the future? Leia again shouted that today she would return the era of the greatness of the Academy of Thousands of Blades. Ferris in response, it is easy to speak, but soon she will rum. Suddenly, both calmed down and dispersed on the teams, as if nothing had happened. Alan began to tremble. He did not understand what was happening, and suddenly he felt he was pushing the murderous intention. It was Sid Eucleus, one of the rivals. The hero immediately realized that this academy will not be easy. Finally, the presenter of the tournament thanked everyone for the expectations, and solemnly announced the beginning of the first match between the 2 famous academies. Alan felt like everything in him. His fans screamed, supporting his best. Only forward. Do not dare lose these worthless rivals. He smiled, moving. This is no longer what before. Now he is not alone, and must win, for the sake of them all. Alan came out of the eastern gate. The audience gladly welcomed their hero. The rival addressed him. Today they will fight as real swordsmen, and even the gods will see their shame, the hero agreed. He beware after Lee's words, but the opponent seemed polite. The commentator announced the beginning of the battle, and the opponent immediately started a challenge. A sword of a strange shape, generated from hellish essence, appeared in his hands. Alan recognized this weapon. This was really the same hell creature. The enemy rushed forward. The hero managed to analyze. He is fast, but the steps are too obvious. Open traffic is an ideal opportunity for counterattack, but suddenly something went wrong. No one realized what happened. Alan fell to the ground. The audience whispered. What does he do? Heard around. The opponent exclaimed happily. Farewell, stupid to the sword. Before the eyes appeared time, 99 years, 12 months, 31 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 42 seconds. Alan remembered. He was injured by the enemy. Taganus looked around. The place looked exactly as 100 million years ago. He may have been in the world created by Kane's spiritual weapon. It was necessary to check how it was working. Seeing the figure of 99 years, he thought that the recluse of time gave him exactly 100. But first, a little workout. The commentator's voice was heard from the screen. The enemy fell from Kane's deadly strike, as expected. It would be worth the rest. But isn't it worth finishing the match right now? And at that moment, Alan jumped and exclaimed, Stop! He is alive and ready to continue. Didn't the match start? The judge was stunned. Seriously? Alan replied that he did not understand anything himself, but the battle could continue. Even the opponent could not believe he was alive. But Alan immediately used Sakura technique, a one-handed style with a mirror blow. The enemy was madly raging. Hell weapons had to lock Alan for 100 years. Why is his spirit not broken yet? Alan struck a decisive blow and said, Just 100 years. It's not too long. The commentator ran to Kane fallen and stated that he could no longer fight. So, the winner of the battle is Alan. The whole team is delighted, Leia exclaimed. The director approved that he had coped well. But in the future, it is better to stay away from spiritual weapons. Rosa asked when he had time to study her technique. Alan explained that he was locked in the spiritual world while training. During this time, he managed to master the skills he studied in the classroom, and even recreate the style of Sakura, watching her. She was amazed. What he had gone for he remembered and reproduced. But Alan added, his version is another. He combined it with his own Yatagara's technique. The girl noted that his version was even sharper. Not surprisingly, it is more effective. Alan blushed and suggested that you teach it this style. The Rose was glad and immediately agreed. At this point, the commentator apologized for the delay and announced the second battle. The judge announced, the avant-garde of the Academy of Thousands of Blades, Alan Radaruya, leaves the Western Gate. And now, a representative of the Ice Academy from the East. The commentator continued. The Ice Academy did not register the avant-garde, so it is their last fighter. If Alan wins, they will be moved from the first place for the first time in 10 years. Both are self-taught. The judge provided a spectacular and unusual battle, and even between self-taught, nowadays it is a rarity. But suddenly, a blade crashed into his window. Sid thought annoyed. He missed again. And that freak is still laughing in his face. Alan remembered this guy's face. Now you should be careful at night. But who is he in general? In the end, he really threw the knife with the intention of killing the commentator. But with such accuracy and force from such a distance, it is definitely not an ordinary person. The judge gathered with his thoughts and announced that the second battle will begin. Everyone ready? Alan looked at the opponent. He just stands? Wait for him to attack first? Well then, maybe it's a spiritual technique again. If so, you will have to attack the first again. He used the same technique, but the enemy beat the blow without any movement. Alan thought that Sid was just mocking. At the time of the attack, he barely noticed how his sword was moving. The enemy called him a fool. Sid rushed on the offensive, but Alan cleverly parried all his blows. The hero noted that with every second, the opponent's reaction slows down. Sid simply used his superhuman power, cutting everything in a row without any restrictions. But what really was missing is a sincere, true desire, worthy fencing. Alan decided that it was not that he loses to anyone. His gaze slid down, then stopped again on the enemy. Sid grunted. What's wrong with my face? Let it rest. The talent will never win the genius. But Alan replied, yes, Sid is a genius, but he will win. Alan attacked the styles of clouds and dark sky, and the rival poured on him, added the Okido and Sakura flowering techniques, and noticed that Sid had lost her balance. Alan used a mirror blow, but it was not enough. Then he connected the eighth sword and style of Yadagaris. They stopped the battle for a moment. Alan confessed, Sid is really incredible, and he answered, his talent is also considerable. But he further added that he has only talent, and that's enough. Its fencing is much higher. He shouted Alan to shut up. Like effort, training, all this beacon only shows how disgusting it is. No matter how hard, the garbage will always remain garbage. And now he will show how pathetic looks for diligence next to his talent. But suddenly he recognized aloud. It became more interesting. Laughing, Sid confirmed, yes, he noticed everything right. Sid threw an icy spear at Alan, but he cleverly evaded the impact. The power of the attack struck him. He has not seen such power. The rival mockingly asked what he was staring at, and again struck an ice weapon. Alan realized it is enough to stop for a second. And all, the end. He began to evade and retreat, the more angry of Sid. Alan was in trouble. After activating the cold weapon, Sid became incredibly fast. You need to think faster. He asked the opponent what that means. He ordered to look at his hands. Alan looked and was scared. The skin was blue. He understood. Sid caught him. The situation has become critical. The rival laughing. He's not already reached the limit? Then let you help. And began to beat even more, again and again. It was too much. He became interested in and lost control. The hum of the crowd and exclamations of Alan's friends. Sid turned to them. They say, enough. I will not make him suffer. I just cut. He lifted the ice sword. Friends shouted with horror. And at that moment, Alan grabbed a sword blade with his hand. He could not move out of place. Will he really die just like that? He didn't want to die. I didn't want to take defeat. And with bitterness whispered, as always, I lose. Sid swung again, but Alan held his sword firmly. The opponent exclaimed, finally woke up. It has passed. 100,000 billion years, that feeling. Alan's allies sighed with relief, though they did not understand what was happening. The director thought, he finally appeared. Sid continued to mock, such a power. And the benefits of zero. You have no talent at all. So who are you? Spiritual core? But why do I get amazed before who will only remain a wet spot soon? Alan replied that he was indifferent who he was. It doesn't matter. Sid was angry. Who does he talk to? Sid again activated the icy spear and prepared for another attack on Alan. Friends from the stands shouted to escape, swayed. And Sid only sighed. he became boring. And at that moment, Alan began to change. His body turned into a slim figure with long hair. He looked at the opponent and asked, "What's with his face? Did he really think that his dolls were scared?" Suddenly, Alan noticed an old recluse in the commentator's cabin. "Here's the devil's grandfather. The body is like a skeleton. Mocks it, but let him find it. Definitely not like it." In a moment, when the sword touched Alan, he turned, grabbed him by the blade and said coldly, "He should not think that he was distracted. Everything is under control." He was sorry for Sid. Even the words did not find, so pathetic seemed the opponent. Alan released the sword and pushed him away. Is the first enemy after the rebirth such a fool? But it didn't matter. We need to get used to the new body. Alan went on the offensive and thought, if the source of this force is the spiritual core, then it has time limitations. If he can hold in the arena for the end of the effect, there is still a chance to win. He evaded the next blow of Sid and exclaimed joyfully. How wonderful to see his reaction. And with these words, he activated the black sword. Its essence seemed to be split in two. One part whispered, "The enemy is already dead." Alan applied the seal of time stops and the waterfall of the ice, broke through the enemy's protection, and asked, "Is that your protection?" The opponent barely had time to raise the shield and thought, what a real monster in front of him. Alan again caused a double seal of time, and another icy waterfall. Sid was shocked, so much force in one blow. Alan swung, flew, 3, 2, 1. The monster approached him, saying he would destroy one simple and fast blow. But when the sword waved, a girl suddenly appeared before Sid, closing Alan. The girl screamed to stop. She knows him. He is not so cruel. But he looked at her in surprise. "Who are you?" Leia named her name and asked, did he forget her? But since Alan's body has seized another essence, of course, he did not recognize it. "Don't disturb, or get it too," Leia asked. She didn't remember how they ate Ramzak and argued. She reminded them of fun. The monster groomed her rudely. "Continue. You'll die now." Laius was every effort. "Come back. Become as it was before," she sincerely asks. But in Alan's head again, the voice of the soul Yadra. This guy has enough will to capture control. In vain was restraining. Despite the pressure, Alan did not give up, and at some point returned to himself. He literally fell into the arms. She asked worriedly whether all was well. Alan assured, everything is fine. He apologized to scared her and thanked her. She believed in him. It was her voice that heard, and was able to return, grateful in the chest. That's exactly this moment. He heard the voice of the core again. "Do you hear me?" Alan lost consciousness. When he was conscious, he didn't understand where he was. He sat on the bed, and suddenly a friend attacked him. But the hero instantly repelled and counterattack. Leia slept nearby. He called her and looked around. It was a hospital. But how did he get here? The last thing he remembered clearly, a blow to the ice from Sid. And then something inside him seemed to explode joyfully. But what was it? The first was Leia. She looked very worrying, and the care of Alan moved to the depths of her heart. He was ashamed of his natural reaction to beauty. She jokingly called him a desert. At this point, the Rose woke up. They greeted. She asked how he felt. Alan replied that everything was well with him, and it satisfied her. He looked at the place of injury. Where there was a deep wound, there was no trace. The director explained, "The core is the embodiment of the soul. It intercepted control of the body, and such powerful entities are rarity. In his soul, there is a special danger." Alan thought about these words. Leia added that until he was afraid, the activation of the nucleus has exhausted all his strength, and now they need to discuss what will happen next. At that moment, Leia entered and saw that he had come to her senses. She sighed with relief. Alan apologized to make her worry. The girls asked the director to tell what happened to Alan, but she assured she will explain everything. But first, it was necessary to convey the essence of the situation by the hero itself. The director reported that both academies were disqualified because of violations of the rules. Alan, with regret, confessed that everything threw him and apologized. The sensation reassured. It was an accident. But the punishment was ahead. The sentence issued the executive committee of 5 academies. He was punished by a ban on the walls of the academy for a month. Rosa asked, "Not just removal, but a full ban," Leia confirmed. The director was not mistaken. "Yes," Leia said. "It is difficult for her to recognize it. But also the Rose and I was also punished. Due to the principle of collective responsibility." Alan exclaimed, "For what? Why should they suffer? The director replied. They were representatives of the academy and did not intervene. This is an official version, but in fact, she suggested, it is a conspiracy. They want to weaken. An important test will take place in a month. Spiritual outfit. The ban on attending lessons can seriously harm their forces, Alan said gloomy, but the girls smiled. Don't worry. The most important thing is you alive, and removal. It can even be celebrated. The director returned to the girls and confessed, this is her fault. If only she were more convincing, she might be able to protect them. But instead, only a noise and 2 stubborn old ones. Leia confidently stated that, then all the fault on her. They are all punished together. The rows supported will not allow you to shift responsibility to someone. The director only sighed and apologized again. Alan asked, what now? Now sit in the hostel? But he will lose the form. The sensation smiled and said, don't worry, they have a great idea. During the next month they will all become charming swords. A few days ago, friends visited the director. Leia gladly met them and asked how Alan felt. He replied that everything was fine with him, and even the tests were normal. Hearing this, Leia was happy. She wanted to say something, but Alan asked permission to ask one question. He asked what happened to him during the holy festival of 5 academies. The director answered briefly. It was a spiritual core, and she suggested that she already guessed herself. But she nodded and explained. The spiritual core is the power of the soul hidden in the body of every person. They are different, the souls of ancestors, legendary monsters, or even ghosts. As the director said, they will hold the charming swords in the detachment of magic swords next month. This is an official punishment, so they will not receive a fee. First, in Alexto, in the unification unit. The commander is her old acquaintance. After a while, they arrived. A large, old, shabby brick building with small windows appeared. Friends were surprised to look. Is there a detachment of magic swords? Rosa wondered with a smile. Do they don't like the look? Leia uncertainly suggested that you come inside. Alan supported her. Maybe not all so bad from the inside. They knocked on the door, and they were let in. There were many people inside, and the unbearable stench. Alan gloomfully thought that his fears were confirmed. Everything is really terrible here. One of the men, noticing the girls, said they were cute and offered wines. Alan replied that they were thanking, but have other plans. The man shouted he was not asked, and he threw a mug with beer. Leia screamed, but Alan reassured her. All is well. If the noise is raised, the director can have trouble. And not so scary, they just poured beer. He suggested to leave. One of the audience addressed the attacker. Hey, Dredd seems to be unworthy guests. Show them what is capable of. Dredd shouted. Do you think you can laugh at me and just go? In vain. It was too much. But the sword cannot be pulled. Alan just put his hand on the arms. A fiery aura flashed around him. There is the objection? He asked. Dredd changed the tone sharply, apologized, drank. Alan forgot, but recalled that alcohol should be careful. He turned away and asked the girls if all was well. Maybe a little rest? Leia sighed. Everything is normal, though it was a little scary. They approached the chunky muscles like the mountains. He sat in dark glasses, reading the newspaper. Alan decided to find out the information he needed, but the girls denied. Leia. Did you go crazy? The Rose supported. This type is scary. He seems to have killed more than once. Alan laughed. Is that what, the murderer's reception room? Leia repeated after him, and Rosa added, Let's get ready for Morley. Alan apologized to the man. He stood slowly, the size of a mountain, and asked, Who are they? He said he had never seen them here. Maybe they are new volunteers from Leia? Alan confirmed the man's assumption, and he said she was good. It is good that he remembered something. He continued. She recently called and asked to look at the students, but she did not explain anything more. When he called back, she did not answer. Friends apologized for their teacher's behavior. The man introduced himself as Buns Dalton, the head of this unit. He said that I am glad to get acquainted. Friends also named their names. They exchanged politeness, and Buns, calling everyone, remembered. So they have experience, he remembers. Buns added that first it is necessary to complete registration as magical knights. But this only applies to Alan and Leia. The silent question of friends, Rosa explained. She has already worked with magical knights, so it has long been registered. Alan thought, so she already has experience. He completed the questionnaire and handed it to Buns. He read carefully and assured, all information is strictly confidential. Then Buns asked them to wait for the tokens. He came out and friends laughed at how they were afraid. Rose said, "It looks scary, but it turned out to be good." Alan added, "His eyes are cute." Leia jokingly warned Alan, so that his tongue did not dissolve. Meanwhile, a noise was raised in the tavern. Someone shouted that the order was torn through him. Others had incited, "Beat in your stomach." Friends were surprised. Another fight? Always here? Buns looked out of the door and thundered, "What's noise?" Rose replied that there was a fight again. He just muttered, "So always with them." Both culprits began to justify themselves. They say joked. Buns is threatening. Our detachment is beating. Both are guilty. And everyone who violates the rules feels the power of his fist. And he really expelled both. Friends noticed. It was rigid. Buns apologized. Here everyone is starting in a second. Then he handed the tokens, proof of the status of a magical knight. Alan noticed a bloodstain. One of the beaten confirmed. It is from the hands of the commander. Everyone thought one thing. Never merge this man. Buns asked if they were ready to take the first task. Alan answered, "Yes, everyone agrees." Then he wondered why they spoke at all. Friends briefly told their story. Buns advised, if they want to learn more, the hunting of monsters is best. Friends were surprised. Monsters? Not butterflies? Buns laughed. What can you learn how to chase after butterflies? Monsters are a real thing for warriors. Alan denied. Leia advised, but butterflies. The commander only waved his hand. She always confuses monsters with insects, and handed them instructions for hunting. Leia confessed that she had previously hunted the goblins in Vituria. The Rose added, "Chimeras are strong, but the three of them will cope." Alan thought of Owing, Goblin, and Chimera. He had never fought with monsters before. But now he is not alone. And most importantly, practice. Then they will be able to cope. He approached Buns, handed him 3 sheets and reported that they wanted to take an order for 3 monsters. The commander looked at them carefully. They went hunting. Leia asked Alan, "Did he see the monsters at least once?" He answered, "No, never. But I heard about them more than once. They can often be found on the tracts." Alan explained that he was born and grew up in a deaf village in Gauze. Suddenly, Alan stopped, alerted. He noticed something. These were goblins. Alan said they would act as a workout. Need to attack directly. The girls agreed and moved forward. Alan gave the command. "Start the attack. First, the first sword, then the shadow in flight." Augury appeared, the first to fight Leia. As expected, it was impossible to hit the plow with a sword. It took an invasion, and it started. Alan was already going to help her. But Leia managed herself and apologized. They did not have time to breathe as a chimera appeared in front of them. The creature is much more dangerous than the previous ones. Decided to attack together. But Alan ahead of everyone. In a moment, he was near the monster. He did not believe himself. When did he manage to run such a distance? But there was no time. He rushed to the attack with the blade number 8 and the technique of Yatagaras. When the girls ran up, the chimera was already dead. Leia was outraged. "They will never learn anything like this." Alan apologized. Leia asked, "He was already stronger than warfare?" Rose added, "Where did this force come from?" Alan shrugged. He does not know. Maybe everything is through the battle with Sid, or through interaction with the nucleus. Rosa stated, "You can no longer allow him to run forward." Leia supported. They also need to train their soul. Alan thought, it is still enough time to become stronger. When they returned to the unit, Buns was surprised. All 3 monsters were already defeated. A week later, Drod approached Alan. He called to sit side by side and asked, "Who is he with?" Alan didn't understand. What about it? But Drad insisted. Let him not pretend. He asked who he meets, with Leia or Rose. Alan was indignant. Everyone was misunderstood. There is nothing between them. But the knights just laughed. Who will believe him? He realized, it is useless to explain something. Alan just sighed. If rumors go, it's not my fault, right? There was nothing left for the knights to agree. At this point, the girls appeared, apologized for late, and offered to take a new task. Buns reported that today's task will be simple. He trusts them. Alan was surprised. Security? And not monsters? The commander explained, "What is an order?" from the old woman with back pain. But then he added, There is another task, this time, from him personally. Friends were surprised. Buns explained. The pre-order leads to the track. There will be a large festival, a holiday of shopping a kid. Their task is to watch what people buy. Friends were even more surprised. They are allowed to go to the festival? They serve punishment here. Buns exclamedly shouted, they are just as first graders every day, only talk about studying. And you are kids. The allies were happy about this opportunity. The commander repeated, this is an order. If someone denies, let him say now. Because then he will regret. Alan sincerely thanked. And the commander wished them luck and confirmed. The decision was made. When they came to the customer, Miss Shendi blossomed with joy. Students from the Academy of Thousands of Blades. She calmed down. They say the school is declining, but these children keep her glory. She began to mention, Leia Blackfist is especially strong. Her style is a fist fight, such a edge, and could scatter the swords with one blow. Only Ferris from the Ice Academy could compete with her, but even she never won the beautiful Lei. The old woman wanted to tell something else, but they have already arrived in the trading city of trading. Friends reported that everything was ready. Miss Shendi thanked she had not been able to talk so much. But suddenly she grabbed her back and groaned. Alan asked what happened. Her back hurts. The friends decided to lead her to the hospital, but she denied. She has not yet executed the agreement and should deliver wheat. Alan proposed to do it instead. The old woman agreed. He ordered her friends to take her to the hospital. They agreed but asked, will they handle themselves? Alan confirmed and added that when everything is over, they will meet near the clock tower. They said goodbye and parted. Alan went to the right store, reported that he had brought wheat from Miss Shendi, and entered. The owner of the Rocky store asked who exactly, and then he stated, he does not believe that such a stretch is a real knight. Asked the contract and undertook to check the grain. Having checked, Rocky stated, the wheat is bad. Only half of the price will give this. Alan was outraged. Something is wrong here. He asked to check again. The seller was angry. Who are you to think about quality? The knight of the second grade? Alan flashed. He grew up in a village known for his agriculture. Alan firmly stated, wheat is wonderful. He grew up on it. The merchant grunted something like a annoying child and called someone from the depths of the store. 2 chunky guards appeared. The owner said that this young sword began to bend and pointed to Alan. The smoking came to him. They say children have to obey adults. He will still have time to correct. Demanded that he immediately apologize to the Rocky. But Alan was not going to give up. So devalue the wonderful wheat is unfair. He was last asked to view the price. The seller ordered the guards to teach the arrogant guy. They agreed. They say, Yun now needs to be raised by fists. But it was at this point that both were on the floor. Alan did not endure arrogance and showed what true education looks like. Without a sword, but with character. The guy once again asked if Rocky agrees to a fair price. He agreed, apologized, and paid the full amount, asking to check. Alan calculated. Everything coincided. He was going to go when the merchant asked, who is he? The guy just smiled. No one is special. He is one, without a princess, without a thinker by scholarships, but this is enough. Meanwhile, 3 girls in black were noticed Alan. One of them suggested that he quickly deal with him. The next mission is already waiting. The second, with 2 tails, said she liked his face. She asked if it was possible to pick up my head after the battle. The third sighed. Her tastes were always strange. At that moment, a male voice came. It was a mysterious number 18. He politely greeted, assured that he didn't want to scare the lady. One of them answered coldly. She does not know who he was, but once noticed them, so he is ready to go to another world. All 3 activated techniques. The 2-year-old ordered, becoming the king of coercion. The other put him in the ice, and the third caused a great devour. They promised him a painless death, but the stranger immediately rejected them in different directions. They were stunned. He exclaimed, how so? Nature gave them strength, and they do not understand what they have. Only look at this vulgar clothing, made only for looks. He had nothing against those who deliberately attract someone else's attention. But to allow excessive is another. The girls did not understand who he is and what at all, and the man added with sadness, the hardest thing to see how the gifts of nature spend in vain. The man mentally acknowledged, Leia is really big. She predicted in advance that hunting would begin behind Mr. Allen. The director asked him to defend Allen. She was afraid that other directors who demanded its exclusion could act rigidly. Number 18 assured that he would execute the order. But what about his tasks? Leia allowed to carry out all the materials. The main thing is the safety of Alan. He was going to leave, but asked to express one opinion. It turned out that he wanted to follow the girls. Both are charming, and he asked for permission to oversee them. The imagination of the man was immediately filled with seductive images. But Leia was angry. What did he just say? He immediately retreated. They say, nothing, forget. She threatenedly warned, touched them. She will take his upbringing again. And he remembers how it happens. The man shot himself and came out. He grunted mentally. To protect Alan, to help Leia, to keep himself in her hands is a terrible job. And yet the mustache is somehow scratching today. Meanwhile, Alan passed past a trade alley and looked around. Something suggested to him. The shopping festival in Dido would not pass without adventure. At the holiday, it was madly crowded. Will they have time to get around in a day? They decided to dress in the same outfits. Subsequently, the girls appeared to Alan in a new image, and he was literally fascinated by their appearance. Rose said time to complete the task. Alan asked where to start, and Leia enthusiastically exclaimed, "From the food?" And no one denied. They ordered so much food that they barely placed it on the table. Having fun, they noticed a shooting range and other entertainment. After all, they won everything they could, on every location. But then they turned all the prizes back. It was said that they had not been so fun so long. One seller was surprised. "They are not sorry?" Alan smiled. The impression was enough with his head, and all the trophies would still not fit. His attention was attracted by a huge building. Rose explained, "This is a shopping house. There are 5 influential merchants with unprecedented wealth and political power. The only ones who are equal to them are the directors of the 5 most influential academies." And now Alan understood why everyone was so serious here. Alan was passionate about how much Rose knows. She replied that she had been here with her grandfather. The young man immediately asked if he was a master of soccer style. Suddenly, a panic rose on the street. Something happened. People began to flee with shouts. Alan noticed a few people in black rapidly. Who are they? What is happening here? Rose suggested that they penetrated the shopping house, apparently looking for 5 major merchants. It was they who staged an explosion. There are many victims among the crowd. One man barely held on his feet and begged to call doctors and knights. The detachment commander, meanwhile, gathered subordinates to evacuate merchants. Everyone who could move went with him. Alan told the girls that he would join the protection. They instantly supported his idea. Going to the knightly commander, Alan introduced himself and explained that he had come to help. He rejoiced and said that the merchants were on the upper floors, invited to join. When they got the right level, they saw a fierce battle between the attackers and the guards of the merchants. The young man noted that these guards are real professionals, coordinated and experienced. The commander ordered the heroes to break further. They came across a wounded knight. He dreamed of muttering something about his sword, as if it were not a problem. Their views were full of anxiety. Nothing is clear. And then a man came out of the shadows in the hood and mask. The guards were left around. Seeing the newcomers, he smiled and exclaimed that new toys came. Alan was alert. Who is this type and why is it so strange? The stranger suddenly turned to him by his name. Alan did not even have time to go, but the stranger again confirmed, "Yes, it is he. I would not confuse anyone." Alan asked, "Who are you?" Instead, he was offended. As rude. After all, they used to love each other so gently. Rose and Leia closed Alan and ordered him to go forward. "They will stop the crazy. It is better to share." The man, in the meantime, stubbornly suggested playing with him a love duet. Alan ran to the door, thinking that there should be merchants here. He came, and in fact, there were frightened merchants inside. He asked if everything was fine with them. The young man added that they came to save them. One of the merchants was contemptuously asked, "He, the knight of magic. So, the usual mercenary? And where is their protection?" But Alan did not have time to answer because he was not simple. Alan barely restrained not to explode, but the merchant only said, "Such a sincere guy is unlikely to lie." Her colleague was indignant. "How can you trust a stranger in such a situation?" But the girl answered sharply that it was because of his cowardice that they were left without security. Now the forest is cut, chips fly. There is no choice. Bringing them out of the room, Alan thanked them for his support. She replied that she wanted to get away sooner, but she liked it, young, but already reached the highest floor himself. Alan said not alone, but she just smiled. His eyes and posture are issued years of training. There is no modesty here. Alan silently led them to a secret exit. He explained that this way can go straight to the first floor and find guards. The girl was sweeping. If it were not for this plan, He would not come for them, right? Salted, the guy confessed to his friends. He leaves them here, and moves. On the move, I thought that Rose and Leia were strong girls. They had to cope, but something anxious squeezed the heart. He was running, praying for all well with them. When he returned, he shouted, calling them. The voice broke. What he saw stopped his breath. The girls lay motionless and the stranger disappeared. Alan rushed to Leia, but at that moment from his back, the stranger sounded he greeted with his return. He said he had fun with his ally, but they turned out to be weak. They did not even want to speak. The young man whispered to apologize that he came too late. The enemy turned out to be too strong, and both girls lost. But he will never allow them to be despised. In Alan's gaze, hatred. The stranger smiled. They say when you look so, I do not control myself. When Alan stood before him, the enemy confessed. He was waiting for this meeting. He dreamed to cross the swords. Did Alan still not recognize him? He is the same loser. The young man shuddered. How does he know about it? He looked more closely. The stand was familiar, the style of autumn rain. Only one owned so, Dorel Batten. The enemy laughed. Finally, Alan recognized him. Once upon a time, it was rumored that he disappeared after that duel. But Dorel just smiled crevo. Did he still not understand what was happening? Seeing Alan continued, Dorel continued. After that the battle he did not become himself. How could such a genius lose someone like him? He did not deliberately treat his wounds in order not to forget about this hatred. This burning rage made him change. For the first time he became strong, only for the sake of revenge. Saying it, he laughed, cheerful and crazy. Alan realized that this sword was his former power. But Dorel said that only thanks to her was it able to quench the heart that shouted about love. Isn't this a spiritual core? Dorel praised his vision. Yes, he really understands him like no other. And rushed into the attack. Alan was surprised. The blows are the same as once. But he did not feel a return. The enemy smiled. Did you think that was all? Autumn rain. And added, a summer storm. The blows changed. It was a completely different sword. Perhaps the former techniques are just a bait. How could he get a spiritual core in such a short time and master the style? The same genius. Only from rotten roots. Dorel shouted, where are you running, a fool? Alan felt that he could not appreciate his strength. He loses the pace. It is necessary to force the enemy to spend strength on defense. He returned and applied the eighth sword, Yatagras. The flow of rain, a storm fall, a piercing storm. The crazy Dorel was beating his face from pain, saying that this grimace is extraordinary beauty. He liked when the blade cuts the flesh. Cut, 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 tear, shift, so it feels. But the hero firmly decided not to let him down, to knock himself from the panther. It is necessary to keep calm, analyze, remember all the details, find the key. And suddenly, a hint hit the head. He exclaimed her like a lightning strike. The opponent confirmed enthusiastically, the first to guess. You understand without words. You are tied with a red thread of fate. But what of that? In the world of shadows, no attack will touch it. He is invulnerable. But the hero disappointed him. This will not be. Dorel smiled cunningly. Show what you know. Alan gathered. He called on secret technique, the flow of rain Morasami. All your spirit is one blow, the strongest, the one that cuts the world itself. Dorel of Otter, how did he do it? After all, it was in the world of shadows. Even Alan himself was a little stunned by what he succeeded. Hundreds of millions of years have passed in the world. Finally, he realized, this is the same special as he sought for so long. Hundreds of millions of years later, he mastered it. The most powerful blow that cuts the worlds. Dorel acknowledged that the hero really cut the world of shadows. It impresses but expected. It's a pity that time is limited. But they will still meet. Very soon. Alan rushed after him, tried to stop him, but the enemy had already disappeared. The earth trembled. The hero exclaimed, did they put explosives here? He grabbed the girls and ran, shouting that everything was about to fly into the air. A powerful explosion. And he closed the girls with his own body. Suddenly the Riza ran out of flames. She smiled. It is a pity that there were no such fireworks at the festival. All instantly got into a battle stable. Where is the sword? The hero assured, all is well. He won him. Rose acknowledged that he was strong. And Leia regretfully confessed. She could not help him. Reyes was excited about whether he was whole. Alan thanked her for salvation. She answered. She should not thank. She just did what she had. he exclaimed in surprise, to extinguish such an explosion instantly, incredible. Reyes smiled. Simple defense equipment. By the way, she has not yet introduced. One of the 5 merchants named her name, the owner of a small shop called the Lisa Shop. Alan introduced, a student of the Academy of Thousands of Swords. Reyes replied that she had heard about him from her younger sister. Her sister is Ferris. She is from the Academy of the Ice King. He seems to have defeated her pet. She was so angry. But you should not pay attention. Rather, it is guilty of him. Alan denied it in surprise. No, he was guilty of her. But the area put her finger on his mouth and smiled gently. Okay, she said. If you have problems, I will lend you my strength. But only once. He agreed. She really likes. She hugged him and began to flirt, and her girlfriends instantly pushed her with the words. The girlfriends were torn off the rise and grunted with disgust so that she did not click. It looks unpleasant. Reyes smiled, noted what he had loyal guards, but warned, it is necessary to remain alert. People in black mantles are black knights. Known for their attacks, abductions, murders, smuggling. They say that there are very strong swords. They have already stopped them, so let them beware of revenge. With these words, the Raza cheerfully said goodbye. There are many more things, but they will still meet. Alan noted that he thought the merchants would be harsh, and she, good and pleasant. Rose was offended. Where is it? It's been 3 weeks. Bonds looked at the paper and noted joyfully. The last task was accomplished. They coped perfectly. Thanks to them, all the accumulated requests were removed. Other mercenaries are to follow the example. Outside, the hero said with a smile that though it is difficult, but he likes to be a swordsman. Leia confessed that she was at first lies, and now even fun. Rose added is a decent, though dangerous, right? The hero asked if it's time to the hostel. Leia answered, tomorrow they are finally returning to the Academy of Thousands of Swords. Rose is looking forward to exercising with the shell of the soul. The hero thought with a smile, does he finally master this power? Tomorrow should be a special day. And a little later, Leia praised them sincerely. She said they had perfectly managed this month. Their faces became bolder, more confident. Later, in the classroom, Leia noted with a smile, boys from Class A have long been visible. Rose joked, we were lagging behind for a whole month. We need to make up. Seeing Alan's confusion, the girls asked what happened. He replied that he was worried, because he was disqualified through him. Leia said he was not guilty of anything. Rose added, you should not be too harsh. The first rule broke Cedo. Leia came to the door. The first lesson will be about the shell of the soul. Everyone is probably already in the classroom. The hero thought, first of all, to apologize. But as soon as he entered, classmates happily congratulated them with his return. One of the knights asked what he was so gloomy. It was a real success. The hero asked in surprise, are they not angry? He bowed low, thanked and apologized. Babable hugged him and exclaimed him loudly, what are you about? It is better to tell you how you're stop. But Leia has interrupted the conversation. Now the lesson. They will talk on a break. Finally all here. From now on, the study of the shell of the soul begins. The hero asked in surprise what it begins with the classes of the soul. He was explained, so decided by classmates. Annika agreed to conduct these classes after their return. The hero thought with sadness how grateful he was. He was really awkward. Babable put his hand on his shoulder. Why is he so gloomy? Does they think they did nothing? Under the supervision of Leia, everyone trained the body. And so, everyone completely undressed and began to show new muscles. Babable with a smile said, the workout was hellish, but worth it. Offers a duel. Leia stopped them and ordered them to be dressed. Now they are waiting for a real test. Weapons will be heavy, so prepare for loads. The teacher warned that these swords are very expensive, so let them behave with caution. Leia took a sword with a tired facial expression. The hero was worried. What happened? Leia apologized. She made strange sounds. Rose confessed that she felt the heat and excitement. Leia explained, it is a special sword that is activated only when wearing the shell of the soul. Real swordsmen feel pain when they touch such a sword. This means that their spiritual core wakes up. Now, it's time to listen to him. Let them talk to him, challenge him, try to master his strength. The embodiment of this force is the shell of the soul. But you do not have to be afraid. If something goes wrong, it will protect them with its power. The moment has come. Let their eyes close, focus. Awareness should be immersed in the world of soul. If everything succeeds, they will see the nucleus. The hero looked at the sword, gradually plunged into the trance. In the world of his soul, his spiritual nucleus with a sly smile. They have not seen their time. The hero recognized in him the monster, his core. It agreed and mysteriously added, "Let it be like that. Maybe he will finally give him a body?" The hero objected. "If it happens, he will take a rage again." The demon replied in one word. "Furious? Isn't stupidity to have such power and not use it? Attack, destroy, enjoy." But the hero firmly stated, "They are too different. He wants a peaceful life." The opponent twisted. "Peace is boring." But the hero insisted. He will never give him his body. Did he not save him his life? Too cruel to pay off evil. The hero agreed. But suddenly, the story breaks. Although there was no way out, it was necessary to act the first. But instead, he would go to sleep. After all, there was nothing to thank, but it is not necessary to regret. If he does not give him his body, let him get away. The demon wants to sleep. The hero shouted that he came to him. The monster lightly rushed into the attack and shouted that even as a joke was not funny. The blow was so strong that the hero flew back and shouted with fear, "What a stupid power!" The hand almost broke. The demon murmured, "Earlier than planned, but what? You do not want to die? Then come here with the desire to die." The hero decided not to wait and went on the offensive. He used the technique of 8 swords, but the spirit appeared behind and said that this knife was not cut. He grabbed the hero by his face and pressed to the ground. Here the power is the power of the heart, and he is not ready for this fight. The hero's friends realized that it would not be easy for him to handle his second essence. Moreover, the antagonist decided not to joke and to play with him seriously. Leia intervened with her power. The rival shouted, "What is this technique?" When he realized that it was a trap, he said, "Is this a technique of such a fool as you?" She answered calmly, "He just doesn't like his dirty paws," and destroyed it. Then she added, "The body is weak, but what a survivability, as it should be expected from the monster." Leia asked what it was, and like her, she suggested Isolana's core, incredibly strong, and so bad. At this point, the hero came to his senses and asked where he was. The director was glad, finally looked, and she added that she now realizes what the power of recovery is. He remembered everything and asked the sensei what happened to that monster. She assured that she should not worry. She restrained him. The hero apologized and thanked, and Leia replied that it was so that he imagined it. The hero thought with sadness. The director spoke of determination and endurance. It turns out, it exceeds its limits. In surprise, he turned to classmates. Who he is at all. He was answered, "This is the leader of that gang, Rice Bortkin from the Sword Curves." The hero was shocked. The same bully from school? And how was it accepted here? The security guard apologized to Leia and promised to take him away immediately. She nodded. All right, she liked such hot students. He has not managed to appear yet. He is already getting into a fight. Ah, as it reminded her of the old times of the Academy of Thousands of Swords. Alan dreamed of a peaceful life. The hero went forward, introduced himself, and asked what he wanted from him. Did he look back to a friend and asked, how could such a slack at all participate in the holy festival of 5 academies? Unless he bribed someone. Turning to Alan, he asked, "Are you a loser from the Kenjutsu Academy? And what kind of style is it? Without school yourself?" He believed that then they won with Dorel dishonestly, but the hero calmly replied, "It is only gossip." At this point, Tesla went forward and ordered to remain silent, not to chat. Alan tried to stop him, but he was just burning. Tesla appealed to a day. Did he look at the final fight of the festival? Remember, at first he was weak, and at the end he absorbed his own spiritual nucleus, went beyond what was allowed and was disqualified. Isn't it? Alan's ally said that after that the battle could not be drawn, to which the opponent dropped his disdain. "You are as worthless as he is." Tesla snatched the sword and applied the style of rusty iron. The enemy laughed. "They say you play with friends and you still want to fight?" Spectators from Class A shouted, "Beat it!" Under pressure, the hero watched the friend with enthusiasm. He held perfectly, parried, and evaded minimal movements. His protective tactics have changed dramatically. The opponent answered, "Causes 3 skeletons." Tesla was amazed. "What is happening?" The enemy declared, "The end came," and it fell on the rain of skeletons. When the ally fell, friends rushed to him. "Is he whole?" Sneak laughing, slash. And he added that in the classroom, but only such talent as this. The same as the protagonist. always confused under his feet. The girl shouted, "Maybe enough?" He quietly suggested that he explain what he was not right in. After all, in the world of swords, everything determines the presence of a shell of the soul. To build only muscles, stupidity. And now it's time to check what Class A is capable of. Class B has exceeded them for a long time. Friends were lost. Do they already have a shell of the soul? Alan asked a friend to prepare the test. He went out to the battlefield. Leia and Rose joined him. They wanted to fight together. But the hero apologized, and he asked to allow him to fight alone this time. The girls agreed in surprise. The opponent clarified. "Oh, finally decided to get out? And where are your friends? 5 against 1? Alan thought he was indifferent to mockery. Class A is completely different, because they will not only be married to the sword, and he does not regret that he postponed the shell of the soul. The opponents have ironically responded, "As you want, a rag." But Alan focused, and the first went on the offensive. His crazy speed stunned everyone. They did not expect such agility. He fought, against 5, and will not allow them to despise his friends. He will definitely not forgive this. Alan called the 8th sword, Yatsuguras, and almost instantly dealt with all 5 opponents. Raja in amazement whispered, "What is the hell? How could they lose this idiot without a soul shell?" The hero answered calmly, "Everything is simple. If the sword is inexperienced, even the best shell will not help." Their defeat proved that they are banally lacking in physical training. Simple, boring, but irreplaceable. Alan confessed mentally, he is still green. If he could curb the spiritual core, no one would dare to touch his friends. And suddenly something exploded in his soul. This feeling. Only now did he start to understand him a little. Even after millions of years of training, he could not figure it out before. The power is born of determination to fight for loved ones. It is she who gives confidence. And an unwavering victory. Here is what Leia meant when she spoke of the power of spirit. He was thrown out of thought by joyful exclamations of friends. They exclaimed enthusiastically, which he was cool. He won 5 with shells in a second. Rose winked. Meanwhile, Lilamy and Teresa read news. It turned out to be a 4-headed 1-year-old man, and they all ended up in hospital after the battle with Alan Rodoru. And again, it is a name. The 3rd girl near the window, the president of the student council history, thoughtfully talked about mental fluctuations, doubtful admission to the academy, thousands of blades, blood at the holy festival. Was Alan tangent to the explosion? Perhaps. But his skill is undeniable. The sacred festival is approaching again. Who will become the strongest freshman? Meanwhile, a new set has begun at the academy. The hero was waiting for Liu, and when she appeared, she apologized for late. She confessed that she was badly sleeping through the lessons of the soul shell. The brain has not been switched off for a whole week. Recognizing, she asked him not to look at her in the morning. Alan apologized and added that even sleepy she is as beautiful as always. Leia blushed. He just called her beautiful? He often looks at her? And he denied it. They went out into the yard and saw a huge crowd of students. Leia asked, "He does not think that a little human here?" The crowd is hugged. These are heroes. The girl immediately began to be brought to the team of cheerleaders. The hero was offered to join the climb club. There is nothing better than to conquer the top. From such pressure, friends were first lost. And then they decided. The best way out. Running into the class and taking a little breath, Alan sighed. "We are in a real mess." Leia agreed. She had already been frightened. Suddenly, Tesla appeared in front of them. He greeted Alan and pointed out the leaflet. They are all from judo clubs. He remembered how Barker grabbed him at the exit, inviting him to the section, promising to pump his back. I thought that he was already doomed to go there. From today, a week of recruits begins, which everyone is called hunting for freshmen. Tesla suggested to keep together. Alan said it would be difficult. Leia heard about this chaos, but did not imagine that he was so crazy. Alan looked at the mountain of paper again. Someone tried very hard. I wonder who made so much effort to print it all. Rose was sleepily, barely moving her lips for greetings. Leia warned that it is dangerous to go to the academy now. Rose agreed. The hunt is already in full swing. She asked which club they wanted to join. Leia has not decided yet. Alan also has not decided. Rose was also thinking. She suggested that after classes, look together that it was interesting here. The hero took several postcards and, flipping through, thought, This is a real student life. It would be cool to find something of your own. At this point, the director came. The lesson began. After classes, friends came out exhausted. Alan sighed. Today was a difficult day. Leia grunted that again, only the shell of the soul. Rose added, tired not by the body, but by the brain. Alan thought about his spiritual core. He still lost, but learned how to quickly evade and make decisions. If even scratches were avoided, he was approaching the mastery of the shell. Leia called. Did he not hear her at all? And Rose asked if he wanted to watch the cheerleader club. When they came there, they saw incredible. The participants made acrobatic tricks and chanted for the whole hall. Academy of Thousands of Blades, the best! Alan was delighted. These movements looked very cool. Rose supported, even better than she expected. Leia confessed that cheerleading was not her style. She doesn't like too candid clothes. Rose denied. It's cute. They watched with interest in how training and practical classes. They announced a break, and Alan confessed. The club was not at all as he imagined. He wanted more freestyle than fencing. Therefore, he suggested to watch other clubs. But suddenly someone called him. Are you Alan, yes? Without waiting for the answer, the girl exclaimed, yes, that's for sure. She rejoiced that he became interested in her fencing club. Alan wanted to say that it was not really delighted, but she interrupted. How did he work? She remembered that she had not yet introduced. Named Shiruto Rosetto, deputy chairman of the judo club, and she added, she is very pleased to meet. When Alan also called, she exclaimed, incredible! Is that really you? Shiruti did not hide delight. It's just great. Shiruti suggested Alan's trial battle right now. He apologized. They and friends wanted to visit a few more clubs. She repeated the proposal again. Alan politely refused again. The girl thought, wow, for the second time, refused. And then she blocked the path, causing faceless, transparent warriors. She apologized, but so just will not let go. Alan realized. She is not going to let them go without a fight. Shiruti replied that there were so talented beginners every day. Alan mentally sighed. Something went wrong again. Meanwhile, the trainer announced the beginning of the battle between Shiruti and Alan. The hero tried to think positively. Nothing, you think, sparring with the deputy chairman of the Kandajutsu club. They beat without the shells of the soul, only with wooden swords. She smiled and said she would succumb to him. Alan thanked for the care. The battle began. The hero evaluated her, and did not see any weak point. And if she just shifted the center of gravity? Was it a preparation for a blow? Then you should try the first sword, a flying shadow. The girl exclaimed in surprise. She blocked him, but it was late. Alan activated the eighth sword, Yadagras. Shiruti answered the technique of rotation, the style of windy circle. She was amazed. The hero skillfully slipped out of a dangerous position and held a counterattack. But she said the blow was too soft. She added that she was a little surprised, but ordered to attack harder. Alan could not punch her sword protection, but he believed it was possible. He met this style for the first time. The previous rivals were completely different. With every moment, interest increased. He decided to put on the full. Alan attacked even faster, even more precisely, even stronger. Shiruti wanted to stop him but did not have time. He noticed, what? Too fast. Let him improve his skills if he wants to be called a master. His blow was lightning, but she managed to evade. Alan thought, it is expected from the vice president, but now it will become even faster. She suddenly asked a break and asked if he was fraudulent at the festival, because he was now noticeably faster. Alan asked, does she really think so? He is even pleased to hear it. She said she needed time to think about a strategy. The hero was surprised. A break to come up with a strategy? He asked if she would have a little time. Shiruti nodded with a smile and thanked her support for her support. The hero thought what he was lucky. And she disappeared in the night glow right in the middle of the tournament. The coach ran, and Alan ordered to carry the burdens. The winner was announced by him. The time has passed. In the classroom, friends discussed a duel, and the hero complained that he was completely exhausted. Leia praised him, not without adventure, but the performance turned out to be worthy. Rose wondered which club he decided to join. He replied that he had not yet decided. I like everything, but did not find it. The girlfriends were upset, and he thought in surprise, said something wrong? And here Leia exclaimed the idea. She suggested, how to create your own club. The girlfriends were surprised, and Leia turned to the hero. Does he want to do training? They could create a training club? The guy was a little confused, but recognized the idea really makes sense. The girls were happy, jumping from delight. But can you just train and it will be considered a club? The imagination carried them forward. Leia thought she found a legitimate reason to spend 3 years together. And Rose was happy even more. It will be able to improve the skill of the sword next to him. Both happily stated that they needed to start training immediately and ran somewhere. The hero thought, do they really want to train? He suddenly felt warm happiness somewhere in the depths of his soul. In a few minutes, they flew to the class with a club opening permit. Leia said she would be a consultant, and Rose read the conditions. 3 participants need. Just aptly. 3 of them. The hero was surprised how quickly everything happened. Rose added that she had to fill out the statement. He is a manager. Leia and she, members. And then, it is time to choose the name. Without hesitation, he suggested a simple name, Training Club. And he wondered what they think about it. The girls had no objections. Then the question arose, where to train? The hero suggested a corner of the schoolyard, though tiredly muttered. At this point, Tessa and classmates looked at them and asked what they were doing. When they heard about a new club, they immediately glowed with the desire to join. One girl said she wanted to combine swimming workouts. The hero replied that he should not rush. They did not decide what they would do. Tessa suggested that once the main character here, so it is definitely a training club. The girl confirmed, he is a star. Leia urged everyone to fit themselves on the list. As soon as the registration is completed, the workout will start immediately. The audience rejoiced in this idea and met it with enthusiasm. Soon the first training began. This is how their club was born. They stood silently with swords in the schoolyard, strange but collected. There was a budget tournament ahead. The main character did not know anything about it and was surprised. Leo asked how he could not hear about competitions between clubs. The tournament competes 3 from each club, fighting to the last. The winner will receive a reward for the club. Rose said it would be a real war. After reading the rules, the hero was surprised by the difference between the first and last place. Leia added that freshmen are sure to participate except the students. Beginners were banned from the use of combat armor. Rose said it would now be an honest battle of fencing masters. They looked at the budget, and the hero asked if it was enough. Leia suggested that she join with other clubs and buy equipment together. It was a great idea. The question is, who will represent the club? Tessa refused. He competed for judo. Another girl also came from the swimming club. Are there any volunteers left? The hero meant those who are already in other clubs. Everyone raised their hands, except Leia and Rose. And it was expected. Leia stated that they would be 3 of them. Rose added that, as always. Only they remained. Everyone gathered in a circle and promised to do their best to win. The tournament has officially started. The participants whispered with each other. 2 chunky guys proudly stated, this time they will show themselves. Last year, after a shameful defeat, they wanted to collapse through the ground. The same year, the goal was the only victory. Even the student council wanted to lose. Observers were amazed at the passion. The hero felt tense around. Leia explained, for large clubs is a chance to survive, and for Rose, the war of elite. The hero agreed. The clashes with those who are taught to the full will be a great test for their 3. Finally, the presenter announced the official opening of the club budget competitions. The solemn ceremony was opened by the winner last year. She was the chairman of the student council, Cinema. She rose to the stage and congratulated all the participants. The hero asked Leia, if she is a head, then perhaps strong. But she answered, no doubt. The heads of all academies are real beasts. Rose clarified. Last year she was a freshman, but won a 3rd-year participant from the fencing club. Its style is undeniable dominance. The hero thought he would like to see with his own eyes how they owned the sword. The chairman of the council solemnly opened the competition. The assistant exclaimed, here she is, the long-awaited occasion. Time passed, and the girls of the hero had already taken the challenge. She is a real fighter. After another victory, Leia said their club had rapidly escaped. Rose added, is just a great start. The hero had no doubt. The basics of fencing worked. The presenter announced the final part. The strongest will come together in the arena. The training group has already been dubbed the mysterious community with swords. See you, warriors. The training club was called a Black Horse. The hero thought it was a disgusting performance on the part of their team. The presenter reported that their opponent would be an absolute champion from the Academy of Thousands of Swords. In the front, Secretary Lilimar Sane at the base, Accountant Teresa McDelow, and heads the team, the chairman of the council. Vice President said that the defeated should leave the country. The hero was indignant. What is this punishment? The presenter called Lou and Lilith to the duel. The hero wished good luck and Rose asked, "Is there a place for mistakes?" The girlfriend confidently said, "Everything will be fine." Mia rushed to the attack first, but no matter how hard he tried, he lost. The judge announced the end of the battle. The winner was Lilith, a representative of the advanced. Teresa won in the main match. The victory won the student council. Lilith said, "It was easy." Teresa denied, "They are almost equal." "Are these freshmen?" Leo sadly apologized to friends. Rose said they were just not lucky. The hero replied that it was not scary. The second place was already a great achievement, although he regretted a little that he did not go against the chairman of the council. The presenter announced the beginning of the award, but suddenly she wanted to say a few words. She said, "The winner of the tournament is the main character." She noted that the main fights were behind, but there was no decisive match. She and Alan did not participate. It's a little unfair. The hero was happy. He did not even hope for such a chance, but at the same time he was missing something. And yet, he really wanted to fight the chairman of the council. He thanked her for honesty. She answered, then forward. All teams supported the decision. The presenter confirmed that the main match will take place. The girlfriends were experiencing. Leia asked to be careful. Rose added, "The girls from the council are incredibly strong." Alan smiled and said he understood everything. When he went out into the arena, she said that she had heard a lot about him. The hero drew that apparently not everything was pleasant. She confirmed, and added that she plans to tame this devil. Today it seems so friendly, but it's time to reject emotions. A true fencing ahead. The hero accepted the call. The presenter presented them. A problem student, removed a week after the entry. Alan Rodoro, and the heir to the accostery. She gave a signal. The hero first went on the offensive, using the technique of flying shadow, but she evaded. Her foggy technique acted perfectly. He was surprised. How could she predict? Alan used the style of clouds and the technique of pearl clouds, to no avail. She evaded every blow. Pearls said she heard about his unique style, but without hesitation, she answered the attack herself. She praised. Her nervous system recorded the appropriate reaction to his movement. The hero thanked, and thought that she even managed to repel the blow of his technology of clouds. Her reaction is incredible. She asked, "That's not all? Then let it show true power." Feeling the challenge, he acknowledged that its basic techniques prevail. The chairman of the council noticed. He has intensified, but his movements are still too obvious. The hero replied that this was just the beginning. Alan used the style of Sakura and mirror-cutting technique. He seemed to win. She wanted to answer the blow, but he disappeared. Did he really disappear? She looked around, hoping to see him, but in vain. Without losing a second, the hero struck the fifth sword. But she was able to cope. She said that the blow was strong, but he lacked speed. She did not even consider it necessary to parry seriously. The hero realized that she immediately saw all his weaknesses. She smiled and asked, "What will he show now? Is that all?" Alan, from annoyance, rushed into a fierce attack. The presenter commented that the chairman of the council easily parts every blow. Leia prayed to stand it, and Rose was surprised by her level. The hero continued the battle and acknowledged, "Her technique is perfect. Purification, attack, physics is a real master," and she immediately felt his inexperience. Nevertheless, the battle with a warrior of this level gave the hero incredible pleasure. This competition has fascinated him more and more. Faster, even faster. He drove himself, dreaming of defeating a strong rival, even at the cost of the last forces. But suddenly her sword cracked. She couldn't believe it and was lost for a moment. Only a moment, and here's the result. Even Alan did not expect such a turn. Leia was glad. The defeat of the chairman of the council was a complete surprise. She praised a friend, and Rose was enthusiastically asked what technique he used. But the presenter has already announced. Alan showed an incredible battle. The hero could not understand what he was feeling. He asked the rival if everything was fine with her, but she smiled, not scratches. She honestly recognized she was waiting for a draw. Later, the friends dined in the dining room when she appeared and asked Alan for a minute. He was surprised to see the head of the council. She smiled and apologized to the meal. Students whispered, "Did the head come to him? What did he do this time?" She invited him to the council's office. The hero said he would come later, but she insisted. Leia quietly suggested Rose to follow them, but she said, "Let him eat." She asked directly in the office, "Did he succumb to her intentionally during the duel?" The hero began to deny, but she stopped him sharply. "It is not necessary to lie." Then she clarified, "What kind of blow broke her sword?" The hero confessed honestly. He does not know himself. It was not his strength, as if something else helped. She replied that she has an emotional trauma because of him, and he should take responsibility. The hero was scared. Did the hero really hurt her? What to do now? But she answered calmly, "Everything is very simple," and she added without a smile, "He chased her in his eyes at all. Therefore, as a compensation, he has to join the student council as a public person." The hero was surprised. Is he punishment for an emotional wound? She confirmed that his victory destroyed her authority, but he denied. He has a training club. Teresa and Lilith began to press on him. Did he give up? A partner like that is a rarity. Does he not want to be active in school life? The hero was confused. This is blackmail, but they assured, a public person does not mean much work. It is enough to visit the council lunches. He promotes his style. It suits them. She asked directly, did he do with them or not? The hero began to thank for the proposal, but suddenly, girlfriends flew into the office. They are not going to give their hero. Their club will not give their leader. Alan didn't expect to see them here. She specified, "Are girls from the training club?" Leia emphasized again, "The hero is their head of the training club, and she will not allow anyone to take it." She twisted. So much noise because of the little thing. Everything you need is to come to the lunch of the council. Leia denied. He always dined with them. Rose added that she would not allow the theft of these precious moments. She suddenly suggested that they join the student council. What will they say? The girls were lost. No one expected such an offer. Jia continued. There will always be a job for public persons, so she would be glad to see them in a team. In the summer they will go to the resort. Boys and girls in swimwear from morning to evening, workout and rest. What do you say? The hero asked why everyone had frozen. But the girlfriends suddenly began to persuade him. The head of the council is a wonderful person. He did not believe his ears and turned to Shah. What did she tell them? But just smiling. Nothing special, just explain some details. And here's the crucial moment. What will be his decision? Join the council or not? The girlfriends looked at him pleading, asking to agree. The hero realized that he was foolish, and agreed to join the council. The girlfriends also rejoiced, and Lilith warned he was waiting for problems. And all through the girls. The time passed, and the first meeting of the already updated student council began. First of all, dating. The first was Lilimo Saren, secretary of the council, second year, Group A. The second was Teresa Medalot, an accountant, also a second year. The Group A asked herself with respect. The third appeared. She is also in the second year, Group A, suggested working well and fun. The girlfriends of the hero were also introduced. Sia reported that she had transferred all the powers to her deputy. There will be little work. Lilith added that at regular meetings they only have lunch together. Now the hero is illegal in the Gernarius Empire. Friends were stunned. How is it possible? This is the same dark place where they practice forbidden magic. The chairman of the council explained. When he was elected punishment, she jokingly said that she wanted a bloody diamond, and he really went to look for him. You can only find them there. What a fool he is. Lilwu suggested finishing this senseless story and eating quietly. Teresa supported her, and everyone stopped for a moment. Then she said that they had already decided where they would spend a summer vacation. Lilith exclaimed that the protagonist is definitely surprised. There is a resort on the mountain, where celebrity is resting. Teresa interrupted indignantly. These words had to be her. But her friend ignored her and continued. Last year they staged a barbecue in the villa. Finally, Teresa tried to insert the word. She noted that the most important thing, there is a beach near the villa. Alan confessed that he had never seen the sea. Everyone was surprised, and he blushed in the mountains. She winks. Will it be easier for him to see the sea for the first time? Leia and Rose were immediately discouraged that they did not go unnoticed. She changed the topic. Once remembered the summer camp. They are all getting ready for exams, right? The hero and Leia confirmed, and Rose calmly said that she was not preparing. Friends were shocked from such a statement. She asked in surprise, what about it? She joined the academy Thousands of Swords to improve the style of Sakura and the skill of a one-handed sword. Her life is a training, not a training. The indignant Teresa reminded. If she has the exams, Then all summer we'll have additional classes. And they will not go to the camp. Everyone faded. From that moment, the hero and Leia trained Rose daily to the exams. They chased her tests with her past years. Now he had to hope for good luck. After a while, Teresa returned the proven work. Leia wondered in Alan as he had with results. He said well, and she got the highest score, and he praised it. Then they asked Rose. Rose with a smile reported, "Made it. The minimum threshold has been traveled." Friends were happy. She thanked them. All because of their help. Leia exclaimed, "Now they all go to a summer camp." She could no longer wait. The hero thought, why did they first go to the house of the board, not immediately to the airport? The next day, everyone gathered at the academy and went to her estate. Seeing the size of the house, the hero could not hide the surprise. Leia said, "With her status it is quite logical. The genus of Acostri is one of the most famous, whose representatives occupy high positions in the Ringhard government. In her hometown, everyone knows this. If he watched the news, he would also know." The hero laughed. He is so uninteresting. At that moment she called him. She collects her group. Everyone was greeted. She asked how her new outfit was. "Does it seem?" He replied that it looks great. She thanked and invited everyone to follow her. They went out to the space where there was a huge plane. Alan was shocked. For the first time he saw him with his own eyes. He never flew before. He was explained. It is a private aircraft of the aircraft family. Leia asked if only members of the council would fly. Jia answered, "The consultant will arrive later," and she added, "Enough chat. Everyone aboard." Time passed and they arrived in place. Leia pointed out to the hero, "Look what beauty." The blue sea stretched before them. The hero thought happily, "It is the sea, without the edge, without boundaries, just as my mother once told." He exhaled with delight. "It is incredibly beautiful." Shia said that first you need to remove the villa. Friends asked, "They also clean?" She categorically stated, "No cleaning, they will cope with themselves." Lilith smiled mentally. The real reason is a mess in the head of the head and scattered underwear. She offered her friends to relax by the sea. The hero even noted how pleasant it sounded. A little relaxed, they went to the villa. At the entrance, they were met warm and welcoming. The hero stared at a huge villa. Rose noticed, everything looks extremely elite here. They saw a net with watermelons and asked why it was. They were explained. This is a traditional game, to find and break the watermelon with their eyes. Leia was enthusiastically suggested to try later. At this point, an angry group of people broke into the villa. The leader grabbed his hand. Friends rushed to help without understanding what was happening. The leader pushed Alan. The allies came back to the back. The hero counted about 20 opponents and asked who they were. The leader exclaimed, "Without dating! The princess will die right here." Leia used a flash and attacked. Rose screamed that everyone was running away, but the leader of the gang commanded to block the exit. "Nobody will work!" He shouted and ordered everyone to surround. Leia used the style of the Supreme King, Alan, the 8th sword, and Rose, a one-handed style of flowering cherry. Then the hero struck a powerful blow, Yadagrasu, a Sakura outbreak. As a result, the enemies were defeated. The leader, moaning, mutter, "How could they lose some children?" Alan confirmed, "The battle is lost, they no longer resist." He turned to Rose to call the knights and approached Leia. She asked, "She was a ghoul?" The hero confirmed. They called her a princess. One of the enemies stood up, clenching my teeth. "I will end this freak." With the hero. The partner asked if he was in his mind. The leader replied, "The mission is failed, and the leaders would still kill them. So it's better to take the risk here and now." And then the whole gang began to turn into monsters. Friends were lost. Suddenly the hero realized, all opponents have mental armor. Leia noted that the enemies behave very strange. Alan agreed. Their mental armor was unstable. He did not understand why. The leader struck with such a force that the hero was shocked. It was only one side scope. From this blow, the beach flew into pieces. Where does he have such an incredible force? At the same moment, Leia used the interception style, then Fafnir technique. The hero exclaimed, she had time, then his turn. They were approaching a group of monsters. One of them said that they all end. The hero noted, the physical strength of the leader has also increased. What is happening here? But Leia responded with a powerful blow in the style of the Supreme King. But suddenly the leader grabbed her by the leg and said, "If we kill her, we will save." Leia, she screamed to take his hands. The hero warned her of danger. She saw everything. And at the same moment the hero covered her with his body. Suddenly, they were behind the ice barrier. Where did this shield come from? The leader tried to cut him, but all the attempts were in vain. He became angry. What is the fucking protection? Is he unprofitable? And it was then that someone who applied the ice spear style appeared and broke the enemies with one blow. The barrier flew, and friends saw. They were sitting in front of them, like nothing. He asked, "Problems with these fish?" Everyone was lost. More than what he called enemies fish, or from how he appeared at all. Ferris appeared nearby and said with indignation, "Let him do something with her freezer. It is unrealistically cold." He apologized. She added that such a cold could not enjoy a tropical rest. The hero looked at them with surprise and did not understand. That these people from the Ice King Academy do here? The question was written on his face. Ferris laughed. "What are we doing here?" "Just our student council also has a summer camp here." The hero asked, "Sid, is your subordinate?" He was offended. "And what of that?" The hero replied, "Nothing, just expected." The girl laughed again. "If you think he is a little crazy, right?" Sid was indignant again. "What does it mean, if you think? He is not such a fool." Ferris smiled. "They say don't worry, you are sweet, as a man." The hero noticed how he treated Ferris politely. I wonder what are the relationship between them. Suddenly a helicopter appeared over them. When he landed, he came out of his assistant number 18. Alan was surprised. "She is here?" The girl asked how they were spending time and hoping that just great. Leia asked, "She was really allowed to come?" She answered, "Was dying of boredom, and it was her only chance. It was inevitable to escape." Seeing Ferris, Leia asked, "What is she doing here?" But she said boldly, "I would also like to know why it should see this no face for a long, awaited vacation." Leia was angry. What did this fox humanoid say there? At this point, Rose, with a detachment of knights, ran to them. Their commander loudly stated that it was a detachment of holy knights, and they came to save everyone. But when the battle was reached, it turned out that the enemies had already been defeated. He ordered a rescue group. Rose, with regret, said she was a little late. She did not imagine how far the office of the night guard. The hero assured is not scary, and thanked. She saw people from another academy and asked, "What does the Ice King Academy do here?" At this point, the leader of the knights exclaimed, holding the crystal, "This is a ghostly pill." It seems that the whole gang accepted it. He ordered to contact the main directorate immediately. The hero was surprised. A pill made of ghostly crystal? Sudden strengthening of strength and the appearance of mental armor are everything through these pills. And the main goal was Leia, and at that moment it appeared with friends. She apologized for the delay and asked what happened. The hero briefly explained the essence of events. She listened carefully and suddenly offered something unusual. The idea came through this incident, and what if to spend a summer camp together with the Ice King Academy? This idea was puzzled. The first spoke the hero. It will not be a rest but a real madness. He was disturbed by the goal of enemies. It was definitely lying. He suspected that it could be agents of a hostile state or organization. He sometimes forgot that Leia was a princess, and there are always problems next to her. But if he can help, he will do everything. But suddenly he heard the cry of friends. He heard the turned. All the allies were already in swimwear. Leia apologized for late, and Rose was fluttering. How did he evaluate their appearance? The hero blushed and muttered, "That looks great." Lilith sweeping is obvious, and Teresa noted that everything was visible in his eyes. Only the director looked wary. She asked if he was a little resistant to girls. The hero asked not to make fun of. Then she said, "Once everyone is here, it's time to go. They are waiting for a common summer camp with rivals. Therefore, everyone has to spend this time with benefit." The hero thought, "And where is their director? Did she already dressed and rushed to the sea? Is she really their leader?" When the allies arrived at the beach, Kane was happy. "Welcome to the private beach of the Academy of Akeen," he exclaimed. He has been waiting for the meeting for a long time. The hero was surprised. Is the same Kane? And he still remembers him? The hero asked in Sid. Was Kane always so peaceful? He was surprised. What are you about at all? The hero apologized, did not want to offend anyone. Sid explained. Kane became so after the holy festival. The idiot that lost the hero voluntarily closed for 100 years. As a result, a nervous breakdown. The age of forgetful has not passed without a trace. At that moment, Cain himself ran to them and said that the spiritual power of the hero was the gift of the gods. Unfortunately, he could not stand this path and went crazy. He asked if he could call the hero a deity. He became discouraged and asked to say more. Sid turned away with disgust. This scene annoyed him. At this point, Leia called friends. If they arrived, let them go to her. She agreed with Ferris and now knew what their training program would be. Everyone was surprised. Their director speaks about work? She was indignant. What do they think about her? Ferris proposed to hold competitions at sea and beaches. Leia immediately replied that their team would win. Ferris in response, did she not overheat in the sun? The hero watched them and thought, began again. The director of the Ice King Academy suggested starting with a beach volleyball lesson. The first team, Alan and Leia. The second, Sid and Cain. Leia cheered her team, forward, and Ferris threatened her. If they lose, they know what will happen. The game began. The teams went to the field, and very quickly the Academy of Thousands of Swords began to break forward. After a few rounds, the hero shouted, "Lee, this is a crucial moment! Warning!" He gave the ball, but Sid shouted that he was weak, and answered the Ice Wolf. The hero answered the style of clouds with white scales, but no matter how hard, lost. Ferris announced the score, 21-19, victory over the Academy of Ice King. Sia said that the next competition would be a battle for the flag on the beach. Sid warned Cain, let him not go under his feet. He answered, not for the first time here. She did not know that a real man was in front of her. The team sounds, and Sid breaks out of place at a frantic speed, using the style of a Trojan horse. He exclaims, "This flag!" Ferris praised him. He coped perfectly. Sid thought it was necessary to be more attentive. And Ferris chanting happily, "Our guy is the best!" Jia added, "A decisive round is ahead, and it starts right now." So the day of the academies has passed. In the evening, the hero scrolled in the head of the events of the last day. The hero thought that although tired today, the day was extremely fruitful. Competitions with rivals are really motivating. Of course, training alone is good, but joint lessons are also important, and fun. Returning to the room, he said he had just come. Ferris was waiting for him there. Both were in a rather strange state that immediately riddled into his eyes. The hero greeted, but stood on the spot. The atmosphere in the room has changed dramatically. He noticed on the truffle table with champagne, and yet, Teresa and Lillimeth in the same state. The secretary exclaimed that she would fight the Excalibur with the sword, and the accountant stated that she would be protected by a magical shield. They grabbed his hands, stretched closer, and asked with smiles if he wanted to talk to them. Suddenly, Rose appeared in front of him. He asked if she got there too, but she corrected her hair and clarified, "About champagne truffles?" Yes, she tasted. In her family it was familiar. Everyone had resistance to alcohol. She cast her gaze on others who have already snored peacefully, and she said they were just weak. The hero agreed. From that moment the truffle is banned. Then he wondered like Lai. Rose replied that Leia was a little worried after the attack, but did not show it. That no one would worry. She is strong. And now all is well with her. The hero thought, as her friend, he wants to help. Rose agreed. When everyone went around the rooms, he exhaled and shuddered because he saw Liu. She said she was waiting for him. She apologized for a late visit, but she had to talk about the group that attacked her. She immediately went to business. It could be mercenaries using dark magic, or agents of the Holy Empire Renaria. She is currently investigating both versions. She learned that 20 people transported by the Holy Knights were killed. The attack occurred during transportation to prison. This is officially. The hero was shocked. Murder? The director continued. According to the results of the opening, everyone completely burned, turning into ashes. The impact of the phantom tablet was confirmed. The hero remembered how the gang leader swallowed a strange pill. Leia suggested that today's attack is the test of these pills in battle. The goal is the abduction of Leia. Therefore, those 20 people were only subjects, and the leaders of this group are real fanatics. She warned, the hero should be careful. He asked, why tells him only to him? Why not everyone? Leia wanted to say something important about him, but changed her mind, said that she was so better. Right now. The next day, something incredible happened under the scorching sun. Bubbles appeared above the sea, and suddenly the water around began to boil. Friends fell into the sea simply from floating circles. These were Sid and Cain. They decided to make a joke by scaring everyone into the devils. They did everything they wanted. Someone was talking. Someone built sandcastles. So the day passed until the evening. In the evening, Ferris invited the Academy's thousands of swords to her villa. She suggested that everyone enjoy the most delicious barbecue from her native family. The table was breaking from food, and the hero thought, this is exactly what he needs now. Everyone wished each other delicious, and the feast began. Sid walked past friends and suddenly pulled the fish out of the hands of Leia, which was already going to eat it. She screamed, "What does he allow himself?" Sid kept the fish and said that in his opinion, it was a very poisonous look. Ferris did not believe him. Like fish were checked by local fishermen. Sid doubted. They were unlikely to check everything properly. He ordered him to bring all the fish from the villa. He wanted to check everything in person. The hero was surprised. Does he understand the fish? Kane proudly stated, Sid is a real fish master. The hero was struck. Kane was all the time, and he did not even notice. Kane continued, Sid was brought up in a special family where knowledge was above all. The hero thought, he is exactly a mystical personality. He sincerely thanked Sid for salvation. She also thanked, if it were not for him, it is difficult to imagine what could happen. Sid was embarrassed that she was saying nonsense. He simply noticed, it does not mean that he wanted to save her, and he called her a fool. The hero noted that the heart in Sid is good, if not as husky. Rose smiled and agreed. Alan proposed to forget about this incident and enjoy dinner. Despite all the events, the summer camp was fun. He so wanted this calm time to end. In the evening, they arranged fireworks. Friends looked at them with delight. Leia offered to go to the camp next year. Everyone liked the offer. And the next morning, Leia and Ferris began to argue again, this time because of a draw in the game. The hero thought, yet they finished everything so wonderful. She did not stand it and asked to stop the dispute. The decision would be made during the Royal Sword Festival. Seeing the surprise on the students, she explained, it is a festival where all fencing schools compete for the title of the strongest sword. Sid specified, that is, the winner of the festival is a real winner? The hero said he had no objection. Sid agreed. He looked at the hero and said he would return his debt for the holy festival. And he added, do not dare to lose until that time. The girl from the Ice King Academy was surprised. He just called someone by name? Another exclaimed that the ice of his soul finally melted. Sid was angry and ordered them to be silent. Ferris laughed. They would complete on this note. She said it's time to come back. Everyone got on the plane. Yes, having argued all the differences, the joint summer camp has come to an end. Everyone went home. Leia asked the director why she was in the suit. She replied, one gentleman will visit her today, so she goes directly to the office. The director went, and a young man appeared in front of the hero in a luxurious outfit. Friends paid attention to his shape, and the hero asked, is he an aristocrat? But suddenly the young man rushed into the attack using the dominance and defeat style. He attacked insanely again and again. The hero could not believe, where is such power? Alan screamed, what does he create at all? He covered my body and shouted so that this brazen would not even think of approaching her. Leia, confused, called him a clown and did not expect to see him here. The hero asked, she knows him? She explained, it is a Cordy Strogonaut, commander of the guard of the kingdom of the western region. And I thought, when did he reach such a rank? Koroto said he had not seen her for a long time. At that moment, a director appeared, and Koroto set the sword on Liu. What does it mean? Leia answered cold, hello to you too. But he was only more angry. Why is some worthless man near the princess? The director noted, he bends a little. These two have special relationships. Koroto was indignant. What other special relationships? Are they a couple? Leia tried to explain that he had misunderstood everything. She is a subordinate to the hero. In short, his slave. Something clicked in the head of the royal commander. He asked shock, his subordinate? Slave? Appealed to the princess for confirmation. She became discouraged. And she confirmed. Kuroto whitened, began to sway, and the psyche could not stand. He fainted. Friends ran up. The girl shook him, trying to bring him. The hero suggested that he take him to the medical center. The guy slowly came to his senses, got up. The hero asked if he was in order. Okay? Kuroto turned with the look of full horror. I will show this microbe what hell is. He stated that he would put himself in order, and he would come back. Sharply turned and left. Leia tried to stop him, in vain. She barely restrained laughter. The hero thought it was rigid. Probably the most disgusting moment lately. Meanwhile, Kuroto arrived in the kingdom and reported everything to the king. He, not believing his ears, asked, "He heard everything right? Did someone chase his daughter?" Kuroto confirmed, "Everything." The king became angry. "It is not work." He ordered him to bring this scoundrel immediately. He will punish him. When the heroes arrived, the courtiers bowed the princesses low. She sighed and said that she had already forgotten how she was welcome here. Then she apologized to the hero. She really was forgotten how everything happens in the royal palace. The hero said Leia that everything is fine. It is not necessary to worry. But the girl looked into his eyes and asked, "Then why does your face say the opposite?" He did not know that it was Kuroto who told the king. But in the letter, he clearly guessed anger. Leia was also worried. "My father ordered her to bring Alan." The hero decided, once so, he will have to explain everything in person. He hoped that the king would understand. One of the courtiers reported that the carriage had already arrived. She asked to be careful when planting. The hero felt the evil views of the courtiers. There was doubt in the soul. Will everything be good? Leia called him to the carriage, and soon they came to the kingdom. Approaching the castle, the hero could not look away. This building was so majestic. Leia, seeing his admiration, asked, "Isn't it impressive?" At the gate, the guards were honored. The princess returned. The gate opened. They entered the territory, and everyone began to sincerely greet Leia on their return. The hero thought, even the guards meet her with respect, but it is natural, she is the daughter of the king. When they entered the castle, Alan was amazed at the luxury of the halls. This is another world, he thought. Leia said she was not here for 3 months, but still missed. She said that she grew up here and ran through the corridors. The hero smiled. He could easily imagine it. She asked if it was a compliment. He answered, "What do you think?" The courtier said that they would go to His Majesty. She asked to be especially careful. The hero was in panic. He did not know how to treat the king. Suddenly he will say some nonsense and cause an international scandal. Leia noticed his alarm and supported. She said, "He is her friend and here he is a guest." The hero thanked for his support and added, "He will still try to speak politely and officially." He knew the name of the king, but looking at him for the first time, he immediately realized, this is a real monarch. And suddenly the king smiled and greeted Leia on his return. She answered the greeting. "My father said he was very worried about her." The hero relaxed a little. He imagined the king completely different, and in front of him was a caring father. He was already going to say something nice. Leia wanted to introduce him, but Alan did it himself, greeted it and called himself a first-year student of the Academy of Thousand Swords. But suddenly the king's face changed. In a sinister tone he asked, "This is the same scoundrel?" The hero thought, what happened to the atmosphere? The king continued. Kuroto had already told about him. This is the same guy who seduced his daughter and spoiled her mind and body. He called him a disgusting brazen. Alan tried to explain that it was a misunderstanding, but the monarch ordered to silence. He accused the hero of choking her head with flattery and loosening, but he, older and wiser, will not deceive. The hero thought, the devil. "This crazy Kuroto has broken everything," exclaimed the hero mentally. But here Leia exploded. She called her father to listen to Alan. The king denied. This devil even seduced his beautiful daughter. But he, nothing will allow himself to fool. Leia continued, "The hero is not like that. And if his father just listened to him, then—" The king angrily stated that the hero just washed the brain. But the girl exploded. "It's full of nonsense." The king waved. "This conversation is useless from the beginning, and the sword of the hero is not." The hero tried to reassure everyone, but no one listened to him. Leia continued to prove her. Alan is incredibly strong. He even defeated the Kuroto himself. The king wondered, and he said, if she states so, let her hero prove it in fact. If Alan is able to defeat the sword he chosen at the same age, he recognizes him the strongest in the kingdom. The hero could not believe his own ears. But if he loses, Leia leaves the academy forever and finishes the internship, without the right of return. Alan repeated, "Leia may not come back." Leia exploded. "This is absurd." The king ordered her to shut up. Her father will not allow disobedience. Leia became angry, and the hero thought, if he did not come here with her, it would not happen. The king asked the hero, "What do you say for it?" There is still a chance to give up. Maybe turn around and escape. Is it a choice too? The hero looked at Liu and realized she wants to complete her studies. And he answered calmly, everything is clear. Let the conditions be voiced again. If he wins, it is recognized as the strongest. Leia looked at him joyfully. And Kuroto is ominously prophetic. It will be his biggest mistake. Battle. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., the main arena. There, the hero will meet with 3 rivals. No objections? Leia was worried because the rates are too high. The hero said confidently, no, he agrees. The royal commander led him to the room, pointed to the door, and said rudely, here is your home, Mucus. He wished him pleasant suffering and asked he was going to cover his disgusting things. Leia could not stand. She said angry, he is not a slurry. His name is Alan, remember it. Do you have any claims? Or maybe you want to fight me? Kuroto retreated and muttered for apology. Overdo it. Leia asked mockingly, what did you squeak there? Kuroto turned to Alan. He will be monitored by the king's order. The hero was surprised. What does it mean to watch? The commander specified, his room opposite. If the hero wants to go out, he must notify. Otherwise, everything will be reported. King. Kuroto added, although he is confident in the defeat of the hero, he still has a good rest before the battle. Leia answered, Alan will win. She showed a corrode tongue, wished good night, and already gathered. Alan was surprised to ask why Leia was going to spend the night in his room with this boring type if her room is on the top floor. The girl was embarrassed. Really, she did not think about it at all. Kuroto was indignant. This freak leads the princess every day? Leia exploded. Everything is not true, the hero confirmed. She asked Alan to spend her in the room and wished for good night. Alan remained alone, with sadness of thinking that his reputation rolls into the abyss. How did it all turn? He just wanted to talk to his father Li, and now, complete isolation. Lay down on the bed and thought, that never felt so lonely. Usually lying was always close. If it loses tomorrow, we'll never see her again. But he will not allow it. He wants to be with her at the academy. And so he decided, tomorrow he will definitely win. And now you have to relax. The next day, everyone gathered in the main arena. The Kuroto stood side by side and grunted that there was little time in the slugged. It's time to move. Alan sighed. Her attitude is really difficult. He was held to one of the rooms. He asked where they were, but she answered as a gunman for combat participants. The rules of the arena prohibit their own weapons. Let it choose any sword. The hero thought that it was done so that everyone was in equal terms, and the quality of the blade did not affect the result. The commander added, though weapons and good, it will not help him. The hero thanked. I understand. This is probably the only chance to talk to her. So he called her and began to apologize for yesterday. But she grabbed him for a tie, attracted closer, and remembered that he saw her naked, so she just did not disassemble. Let him choose the sword faster. She wants to go back to the princess. The hero chose the sword and Kuroto ordered to follow her. Alan thought, she is not even curious. He doesn't even try to establish a relationship. She showed the exit to the arena and said, let it come out as soon as the name. If he really expected it, it should prove it today. Today he has to leave the arena by the winner. Meanwhile, the presenter apologized for the delay and reported, they announced a special duel. The most dangerous fraudulent is Alan Rodaruya. They shouted from the stands, away from here. The audience was indignant. He deceived the feeling of their princess. From here he does not come out. Someone shouted that he had a treacherous face, as the king said. And in general, does this abomination be able to fight a little? All this reminded him of the days at the Kanjus Academy. They also hated him, laughed, waited for defeat. And again the crowd wants his fall. But suddenly he heard a familiar voice. Leia shouted from the stage, wished him good luck. Alan replied to rely on him. He is no longer alone. The audience whispered in confusion. The princess supports this freak? What is happening here? Apparently it influenced its weakness. The king was angry. How can she support him? But Leia replied cold. Her business, whom to support. The presenter moved to the representation of rivals from the eastern gate. The 2 strongest swordsmen of the kingdom, Gallius, a strong hand, and Aramarus. 2? Leia was shocked. It should be a duel 1-on-1. But the king smiled. He did not say that. Gallius, seeing his opponent, just shrugged. A small boy. But if he really cheated the princess, there will be no battle, there will be a punishment. The hero answered calmly, let them say they want. He will win and pick up from this place. An hour remained before the first duel. Alan decided, who is the first attack? He has the advantage. He rushed forward at a speed that struck even experienced fighters. The Ramirez immediately applied the style of autumn wind, but Alan skillfully evaded. His power was significant, but the speed was not Alan. The maneuver was so fast that even the hero shuddered. The rivals did not understand how he did. The Ramirez was shot down from the Panthal. Gallius did not have time to understand anything. The audience watched, and suddenly realized one sword fell. How did it happen? In a moment, he overcame the strongest two opponents. Just one blow, and victory. His force was guided by a genuine love for Leia and the desire to be nearby. The king looked angry at the result of a duel. Alan apologized and modestly said that he was just a little stronger today. His power impressed everyone. Grizz swore loudly, ordered her to go out. Her turn. Appearing in the arena, the girl looked at Alan and confessed. She did not expect to become his rival. The presenter solemnly announced, "Before you the commander of the Royal Guard, Kroto Strobanov. Her exit is the last trump card in this match. It is the result that the fight depends." The hero realized is the final duel. Leia was nervous watching them. She knew how strong and dangerous. Her body is like a stretched steel string. Her sword is perfect in every movement. She could no longer watch the situation silently. Her time has come. Leia got up and shouted for Alan fought. She believed in him with all her heart. The hero looked at her, and the rival calmly stated, "He disgraced his family, humiliated the princess, and will answer death. It will expose his true ugly essence." The presenter gave the final battle. Kuroto applied the style of the Supreme King and attacked with all his strength. Alan noticed, her style is similar to the one using Leia. He evaded and heard an angry exclamation. "Do not dare to underestimate." The blow was powerful, but Alan answered the counterattack and jumped high in the air. His movement was so skillful that even a rival recognized it. She noted, his reflexes are impressive. But this will not be enough. It will accelerate. The hero watched carefully, amazed. Its combinations are a work of art. No unnecessary movement, from the position of the legs to the final stroke of the sword. She was a grace embodied in a steel blade. Kuroto continued to attack. Its style is dominance and destruction. But the hero again managed to successfully evade the blow. He restrained her pressure, feeling the power of every blow. She really went hard, but he is also not frightened. When her attacks became even more fierce, the hero disappeared unexpectedly, and just suddenly appeared, with the technique of one-handed style of flowering sakura. The mirror incision of the sakura forced the cortex to go into defense. Spectators are shocked. They're Kuroto? On the defensive? The king grunted that it was only a trial, and a real battle for the title of master is still ahead. The girl acknowledged, although it is unfortunate, but he is a wonderful fencing. He asked if she hated him so much. She replied that she trained many soldiers, but came to the strongest. She said, "Did he pass the hell of hell training? And he mentally, millions of years." She continued, "Even without talent, he tries to surpass himself. It is respectful." But she added cold, "He will not go further. This is the limit." Her farewell words were cruel. She turned around and ordered him to look more closely. "It's a talent, and it will not harm the princess, which she considers the meaning of her life." She remembered how young they trained together in the castle day after day. Both were almost peers. One day Leia hit her, the Kuroto fell and wept. The princess rushed to her, asked if everything was fine. Kuroto wiped tears and praised her strength. Leia then said, "When she grows up, she will become a strong sword and protect her country." Kuroto sadly replied that she was not worth it to stand side by side, but Leia denied. The princess said she was not strong. They should become strong together. Because Leia is the strongest and most kind, she vowed to protect those who dear to her. And so the Kuroto will not stop. It will destroy anyone who dares to offend the princess. The hero understood it. She activated her combat form, soul dress. She said directly, "This is its end." The audience whispered. Their commander used the soul dress air form. The real battle begins. The hero realized that she turned the stones into birds, and with a long sword and control of air, it attacks from afar. He decided to get closer, but the Kuroto burst into his plan and warned immediately, "It will not work." A giant owl flew into the air. The speed of the attack struck Alan, but he managed to repel her. The girl said she would play a serious way now. The explosion began to form. Everything disappeared in the smoke curtain. The hero saw nothing, but he again used his technique, the sword of the foggy moon, and successfully repelled the following attacks. Kodos acknowledged that he was a smart guy. but she was already preparing a counterattack. The space was filled with explosions, and Alan screamed, "That is a mockery?" He has never evaded so many times in his life, a real dance between explosions. But he did not have time to take a counterattack. Croto shouted with a mockery, "Don't even try." Her new technique caused the explosion of such a force that she almost did not touch him. The hero said it was too much. She tried to align the wave of the impact by pushing her foot on the ground. When the smoke dispelled, Kuroto noted that although he could get soul dress, the situation in the battle changed dramatically. She asked, did he finally realize that his efforts were in vain? And what is his so-called talent? Nothing? He will not be able to get soul dress. He is not suitable for the role of the defender of the princess. It is better to give up. And the hero knew she was right. So he will definitely not win. A different way is required. There was no choice. You have to take a blow and take a risk. He must take his form. He wanted to go home with Leia. He leaned down, getting ready to meet the blow. The strength of the explosion covered it, and Cortus shouted that he was already on the verge. The explosion moon subsided. The arena froze. Everyone froze in anxiety. It was a direct hit. He could not survive. He was in the epicenter of the blow. Even Cortex was upset because she warned. But suddenly a glow came out of the smoke. He appeared, activated the 8th sword of Yatagaras and caught the blow. The blades were crossing. The affected Kuroto asked, "What is he, immortal?" The hero answered calmly. He felt everything. He realized her benefits, but will not retreat. She decided to finish everything in fury using the 50th sword. Smiling, "I quit." Did he think she would not be able to repel his attack closely? At the same moment, she created a flash of light, blinding it. The hero saw nothing. The blow was inevitable. Leia jumped in place and covered her mouth with her hands not to scream. Is everything over? But the smoke dispelled. He stood, leaning, examining the wound. It was not deep. He was just lucky. Kuroto broke out. Does he eat iron every day? Alan calmly asked what she was talking about. Now, his turn. But she warned again. Do not underestimate her. She called her army bird again and ordered them to destroy it. The birds exploded, but he was used to it. Her attacks weakened, and it was a chance that cannot be lost. Croth raged. Her techniques, her explosions are in vain. Although he is wounded, he still stands. And suddenly his blade crumbled into pieces. Did all the swords from the arsenal had a hidden defect? The king rose, laughed, and exclaimed loudly, "Did you just notice it, a fool?" I told you if you listened carefully. The king reminded everyone he would never win. Alan whisperly whispered, how to fall low to such a meanness. Meanwhile, the presenter announced, the sword is broken with one blow. Is it a defeat? Croto calmly replied that she was serving a princess, and even an unarmed opponent she is cut off without hesitation if it is for her highness. The audience froze and then started shouting, he is a brave man, hold on. This is your chance to stop, otherwise everything can end in death. Someone shouted that it was the best battle of the year. Alan heard all these cries but turned to the rival. It is strange that she was so cares. Did she really think that he would only seem because of a broken weapon? He was always difficult. No match was easy, but this is his path, his fate. Leia, holding her breath, stood on the balcony and begged mentally. A sword-free performance is suicide, but he wanted to be near her. I wanted to become stronger with her, to share all the difficulties and victories, and she could not stand. Shouted that she also wanted to be near. Always. Her voice moved Alan. He thanked her loudly, felt true in her heart. Returning to Croto, he said they would continue. He will win her and release the princess, even with his bare hands. She was silent, then said aloud to everyone, she recognizes him as a sword, and yet he bows before his courage. Her will has awakened pride. They broke out of place. The last jerk. His thoughts were confused. He did not have time. It was necessary even faster. She urged her air troops to break him, but Alan broke through them with his fists, running to her. And at that moment, there was an explosion. He stopped, asked in surprise, why did she blow her up? She answered calmly, he won. She seems. The arena froze. The audience was caught. Leia shouted joyfully, and the king became angry. How is it possible? The presenter confirmed, the winner is Alan. Croto officially recognized the defeat. Princess and her friend. Victory. Alan felt the tension subsiding. Leia rushed to him worriedly. She asked if everything was fine. He smiled and answered, don't worry, I'm fine. After the battle, he was taken to the doctors with his rival. But after the inspection, it turned out it did not have any scratch, although he was convinced that the whole body is in the wounds. Despite its external integrity, he felt severe pain. Its spiritual core was damaged. It cannot be ignored. He resolutely addressed the king. He misunderstood everything about his relationship with Leia. But the answer was dry. The king was not going to listen to it. The protagonist thought that the conversation was completed. But here, Leia could not stand. She broke out with anger and demanded that her father listen to the end. And she asked him, "Can nothing be done?" The swords were replaced. The king thought, and then suddenly declared, the young man coped with the test. He recognizes him with the new strongest sword of the kingdom. His courage is worth the award. And more importantly, he approves of his relationship with Leia. As love. Everyone was numb. But Shiruto could not stay. She reminded of their pan-servant connection. Leia cut her off, reminding her, her father just said, "It's love. No masters." The king specified, approval applies only to platonic love. Any other is disgusting to imagine. Alan quickly confirmed it. Leia added, "It is not so loud. Everyone heard everything." The king again reminded that if Alan only tries to touch his daughter, he will send the whole army. Is everything clear? The conversation was finished. Tomorrow they returned to the academy. The king gave the order to prepare everything. Everyone began to disperse, and the king struck on the throne. Let Alan memorize these words. The next time he will lay the explosive and break it into pieces. The Shiruto squeezed and apologized. Her behavior as a security commander was not easy. She is ready for punishment. The king asked, and what happened? Why did she decide to blow herself just before him? But she answered, unfortunately, otherwise she could not. If she continued, it would definitely be killed. Grizz exploded. What does she say? Let it explain more clearly. She said. For a moment she saw Alan's spiritual essence. Blondin with horrible features, a real monster that radiated rage. This essence was terrible than that she ever saw, and she lived inside the young man. The king wondered. If she says, maybe it's true. There will be no intervening, but more about this force should be found more. The traits of this essence reminded him of the dragon Fafnir. Grizz suggested, maybe this is a modern technique of sealing entities? But the girls thought it was something else. The king was shocked. Such a powerful spiritual essence could not be contained in such a worthless body. But the Shiruto replied silently. She saw resemblance to Dragon Fafnir, and if it was a mistake, everything could turn into a tragedy. Grizz was starving, did not believe in what he saw. But suddenly he asked, the same Leia said that love between them? Shiruto confirmed. The king broke. This girl put everything. She threw a fishing rod and his daughter became a bait. A new headache appeared through it. He swore loudly. How much does she really know? But the idea came. If this guy leave here forever, it is necessary to act quickly. He told Cortus to call 3 royal guards. He goes to business. The chancellor will get the kingdom control for the time of his absence. The Shiruto nodded. Everything was clear. But she remembered mentally. His shape was very similar to Fafnir. Was it just imagination? At this time the protagonist went and felt terribly exhausted. But there was no time for rest. He mentioned Grizz's behavior. Why did he get so angry when he learned about his daughter's boyfriend? Leia ran to him, worried. His appearance was exhausted. Is it all right with him? He apologized, and said that all is well. She thanked him again. But all this happened because of her, and she didn't know how to thank. And most importantly, the father considers them a couple. If they do not behave as a loved one, it will be strange, right? The protagonist acknowledged that she was right. She was glad. So you think so? And he, a little embarrassed, asked, how do lovers behave at all? Leia winked. She has a great idea. He asked in surprise, which one? She invited him for a date, and in a moment they strolled the main street of Rodo. Leia was joyfully told how he was not here for a long time. The hero noticed that she is in a great mood. Now you do not need to change school. At the store she pointed to a dish with potatoes and oil and enthusiastically ordered 2 portions. The seller was happy and agreed immediately. He recognized the girl. Princess Leia, isn't it? And in surprise he asked when she returned. She replied that yesterday, because of urgent fees. The people around, when they heard the conversation, recognized it, happily welcomed and expressed respect. Leia was extremely popular. One woman exclaimed that she thanks heavens. The princess is alive and intact. Seeing a boyfriend, she asked, it's her school friend or a guy? Alan was confused, not knowing how to answer. If it objections, gossip will go. If it agrees, their relationship will become official. But Leia cheerfully stated, "The guy, probably?" The people around applauded and covered them with greetings. Someone called, "Then he will become our future king." Alan was naked. Everything went too far. The seller gave them potatoes with butter, smiling. "Our princess is already quite adult." The guest at the expense of the establishment. Leia stated that they were on a date, so everyone was to disperse and give them peace. The protagonist thanked Heat. She saved him. The seller winked. "Thank you." When the crowd dispersed, Alan quietly asked, "Do you really want everyone to think that we are a couple?" Leia said confidently, "This is true, and she likes it." She added, "By the way, her father told himself to return when all things were completed." Alan thought that her father was a self-righteous type. The princess suggested not to spoil the mood of chatting about him, but it is better to enjoy delicious potatoes. Alan agreed, thinking she was still evil for a cold meeting. When they got the place, Leia stopped and pointed to a beautiful building, the country's main monument. It was the Kingdom Museum. The protagonist was enthusiastically noted that the building was really impressive. Leia invited him inside. Alan confessed that he was his first visit to the museum. She was surprised. Then, Teacher Leia would personally arrange a tour. She pointed to the right side. There were the works of Henry the Great. Alan agreed. There are really many exhibits. Leia said that the kingdom has a rich story. Then they came to the picture with the Great Mountain. She had a strange aura, and the guy wondered what it was. Leia explained that the author and the date of creation are unknown is a mystical picture that has been stored since ancient times. It did not meet the exhibition standards, but for some reason it was never cleaned. When she asked her father, he always avoided answers. Alan thoughtfully said she was really strange. Leia wondered, "Do you think so?" After passing, the hero noted that they went around almost the whole museum. He asked what next. Leia took a pause, and then remembered that she wanted to visit another place, a hill of hope. They went to the mountain for a while. Leia reported that they would soon be on top. Alan was surprised. She was tireless, even after all her experience. He had already dreamed of rest, but Leia suddenly stopped and exclaimed, "Look here! That's what I wanted to show you." The hero came closer to see what Leia wanted to show, and the sight that opened before his eyes was struck. From such a height, the whole kingdom was on his palm. The princess asked, "Was it good?" Alan replied that the beauty was incredible. The landscape looked more than a work of art, not nature. The girl thanked again. The hero did not understand what. She said, "For fighting for her. Now they can be together, and it is his merit. Everything is meaningful, and she is happy." And the protagonist at heart dreamed of at least a little rest. But Leia suddenly changed the topic and asked, "How is her father?" The guy wanted to say that he was stubborn, but instead chose a diplomatic answer. It is difficult to answer, but in one he was sure. The king loved her sincerely. The princess agreed, though she added that there was one drawback, her mother. She died immediately after childbirth. They say the health was weak and it could not stand. Leia had no memory of her. The chief knight said, "After his wife's death, the king promised to defend his daughter at any cost. Now it is clear why he is so intrusive. However, even such love does not justify his pranks. 2-1, broken swords." She did not want the hero to hate her father. Alan smiled and assured that all is well. He has no anger. Now he is part of her family. The girl thanked and apologized that she started such a sad topic. The guy reassured is not a problem, and she should not worry. After the pause she asked, "Was it a difficult conversation?" The hero replied that he was glad her trust. He also has a similar story. His father died of an epidemic as soon as he was born. Mom brought him up. Leia was delighted to say that his mother was a real heroine, and she would like to meet her. Alan said with a smile that she would be surprised to see their village. Leia confidently stated she would definitely like it, and if it had happened, he would be the happiest. They fell silent, and a pleasant silence reigned between them. At that moment, they fully understood each other, and suddenly Leia asked, "Does he want to make a desire?" She explained that there is one magical place on the Hope Hill. When they got there, the hero was surprised. A giant tree grew up in front of them. Leia said there was a legend. If you hold hands under his crown, the most cherished desire will come true. The tree allegedly several million years. They stood under a branch, closed their eyes and made their desire. When a few minutes passed, the girl asked what he wanted. Alan replied that this is a mystery. The hero did not want to tell the desire, but Leia persuaded at least to hint. He smiled. What if they ordered the same thing? He was even ashamed to repeat it for the second time, because he just wanted their time with Leia never ending. And maybe she really did the same thing? Meanwhile, a group of mercenaries gathered in another building. Their leader said a new goal appeared. One of the fighters grunted that again a nonsense. In response, a powerful slap received. The girl roared, not to dare to ignore her. If you mug or something, say aloud, "It's time to act." The next mission is the abduction of Princess Li from the Kingdom of West Stream. One of the warriors exclaimed, "This is the legendary black and white princess. Now it will be really interesting." A lot of rumors went about her, especially about her connection with Fafnir. Everything promises to be fun. In the meantime, friends returned to the academy. The second semester began. Leia glowed with impatience. How she missed everyone. The hero was also glad, like a normal day, but went to school near her, and it was invaluable happiness. The girl noticed his gaze and asked if something was wrong. Alan assured that everything is fine. They were met with joy in the classroom. Tessa immediately hit the essence. They say if he became even stronger. The hero smiled. Only she could say that. Leia congratulated everyone on the beginning of a new semester. At this point, the class came into the class, but her mood was quickly damaged. The girl asked where they were 2 days. No one reported herself. Leia replied that they had time at home. The rose frozen. What? Her mood was noticeably spoiled. To smooth everything, the hero invited her for a walk. Although the situation was temporarily leveled, he felt it will not work for a long time. After the walk, they returned to the class. The protagonist looked at the classmates with warmth. He did not see them all the month, and was glad that all again together. Leia came after and wished everyone a good morning, announcing the beginning of the first class lesson of the new semester. The director looked at the students and noted how everyone grew up in the summer. She was genuinely glad to see everyone. She paused and called to listen carefully. Important events ahead. A month later, the King of the Sword begins, a ceremony at which the best fencer is chosen among all academies. The one who wins will receive glory and great opportunities. There are only 5 candidates from each school, but freshmen have their own chance. Every year a separate tournament is held for them. The War of Freshmen. The main rule, only one-on-one duels. You can only win through your own skills and power of spiritual weapons. The hero realized it will be a competition not only bodies, but also in spirit. Leia reported that next week the rules of freshmen would be announced, and the name of the exact start. Those who want to participate should be prepared. She suggested raising her hands, and the whole class raised her hands up. The director enthusiastically exclaimed that she had not seen such unity for a long time. This year, their class is clearly adjusted. So it is better to devote a week to training to prepare both the body and the mind for fighting. At that time, the hero met with the monster again. He asked if he wins again. Will get a spiritual shell? The essence replied, yes. But for such a weak 100 million years will not be enough. Alan just smiled. Even he felt better. And immediately went on the offensive, activating the first sword, a flying shadow. But the enemy did not even move. He lay calmly, lazily murmuring what he was a fool. The hero tried an unexpected blow, activated the 8th sword, Yadagaras, but the monster did not respond again. No attempt to protect yourself. He just looked and noticed. Alan was a little pale. Something happened? Without waiting for the answer, the protagonist attacked again, and this time the enemy stood up and easily repelled, struck. Alan fell. And what do you give up? Such a weak body will not withstand one impact. But it was a one-sided battle. The monster became stronger with the hero as a mirror reflection. It seemed to be an endless circle, but he did not have the right to surrender. Even in a hopeless situation, he had to fight further to obtain a spiritual shell. And suddenly it seemed to him as if around Sakura's petals were circling. Is it because of the rose? At this point, Leia announced a break for lunch, exactly an hour. After that, they will gather in the lesson again. Friends called Alan to look at the student council's room. Going, he still thought of that Sakura. Maybe it seemed to him? Meanwhile, Leia was sitting in the dark hall, silent and lonely. Friends asked what happened. She said she had to talk to them. She asked, they will listen to her, right? Everyone assured, she is not alone. The director also replied that Leia has calmed down a little, and now she can share everyone. But suddenly she fell to her knees in front of a stunned friends and begged to help. She could no longer pull it herself. She became entangled in her own feelings and did not know how to be on. The director jokingly called her evil, pointed to the table, and she pointed to the table. Leia exclaimed, "A whole mountain of papers." Unfortunately, the vacations were over. The work has become twice as much, and its secretary and accountant have not returned yet. She couldn't even call them. It seems that they did not plan to return in the near future, and it is impossible for friends to say it. The director was begging to help with the documentation. The protagonist recalled that when she joined the council, she promised a light job. But Leia fell to her knees with a strange despair and pleadingly said that her older sister was already crawling in front of them. What a cruel demon they are. Alan lifted her, not his name. He warned that this was the last time. There would be no leisure. Leia agreed that once he would help, she would also join. The Rose also supported. It was difficult to give up. Thanks to joint efforts, everything was raked in 2 days. They even sacrificed a lunch break. The rest of the time was devoted to the preparation for the battle of freshmen and training. But even making every effort, Alan understood. In a week it was unrealistic to master the spiritual shell. And finally, he did not have time. And here is the day of the competition. All participants stood in the arena, waiting for their turn. The protagonist was slightly nervous, but when he saw the smiles of his girlfriends, it became easier. Leia boldly announced that she would take revenge on the first day of dating today. The Rose added, for the defeat at the Holy Festival. The hero laughed. He liked this passion. He said that today they are rivals, so let everyone go to the full. They were approached by classmates, all in a high mood. The protagonist joked, "Why are you all so joyful?" Tessa, laughing, responded, "She came to avenge." At this time, a stranger was silently watched by them. Leia announced the opening ceremony. The first-year students took the stage. The stands were crazy. The audience shouted, supporting their favorites. The director enthusiastically noted that the speeches of these newcomers will have a great influence on the future tournament of the King of Swords. Many of them have already mastered the spiritual shell, and now a real battle will begin. She turned to the students. "Show what your daily workouts are worth." Drums were heard above the arena. Leia raised her hand to the drum with the names. "It's time to draw." She got the first piece of paper, the first to compete Alan and Once. At this point, someone called it from the side. It was Once. He suggested, "What about the first battle between the representatives of Class A and B? One student from each class?" The protagonist thought, "It sounds interesting," and he immediately recognized this guy. It was a familiar student from Class 5. A stranger broke into the class. Leia addressed the students. "Everyone ready?" Then she turned to the defenders. "Whether someone wants to give up a duel." But no one refused. Leia announced the competition and said that the first fighters had already been identified by order of the director. The audience fell out the anticipation. They discussed the participants, both problematic. One mentioned how Alan made noise at the Holy Festival. And the Raido has not heard anything good too. It will be hot. The Raido burned the thirst for revenge. He trained to the exhaustion, and now was about to pay with Alan in full. Alan didn't understand. Are they personal revenge, or just a desire to beat? Although he was indifferent. Leia asked if both were ready. Seeing consent, she declared the first battle between freshmen, Alan and Raizo. The opponent immediately called 3 skeletons. Alan thought they became even larger. Raizo laughed. "They say did not expect such a turn?" Alan swore. He was strong but not immortal, and here the explosion thickened. It seemed that everything was over. The enemy shouted that he destroyed him finally. He remembered all past images and said that justice would be restored today. He screamed of the honest victory, the sword festival, the freshman war. They say he would no longer be dry from the water. The Rose had time to notice. It was an explosion. Tessa exclaimed that it was a violation of the rules. Raizo laughed with a demonic laughter without noticing. As Alan appeared just in front of him, alive and unharmed, he adapted to the explosions. If the Raido used another technique, everything could have been different. But the one who does not fight with a pure heart is not able to win, Leia exclaimed. The unexpected finale of the first duel. Alan was the winner. The stands exploded with joy. Such a reaction surprised the hero himself. The Rose noted, after such an explosion, it was not even scratched. Leia joked that in her kingdom, he ate explosions for breakfast. The Rose returned to her friend and said that she should not be offended if one of them loses. And they already discussed the same question, right? The Rose did not deny. She would win. The princess broke out. This was a joke or what? The main character was restless. Meanwhile, Leia began to draw a second battle. dipping her hand into the drum with the names. The voice, Rosa Valencia. The girl's memory of her appearance at the academy dreamed. After the battle, the girl approached her. The same with her black fist. She was shining. She does not need emotions. Rosa sighed, thinking that it will still be interesting. As a heir to 1,000 blades, she should be interested in joining the academy. Now she was standing in the arena again. Against her, a friend of the main character. Leia announced the beginning of the second match of the first round, the battle between the classes A. Both girls rushed into battle, and the director noted, "The Rose attacks confidently." She pressed from the beginning. Gigi thought that the difference in force was obvious. Wide attempt, he answered the style of the moon and twilight. Tessa sweeps. It's time to finish. The Rose used the style of Sakura, and the petals filled the air. She attacked strongly. Leia announced, the winner of the second duel. Rosa. Tessa regret the defeat of the hero, and the other replied, she just read his movements well. Gigi was not upset. Smiling, I thought that the Rose was at the height, as expected. Over time, the moment of announcement of semifinals came. Leia said that after all the fascinating matches, the cue for semi-final battles among the candidates of Ardenko. The girls were happy. Finally, the real battle begins. Gigi was waiting for a spectacle. Tessa reminded, do not forget about me too. The audience shared. Some cheered for Rose, others for the main character. Someone supported Lai. And yet there were those who asked Tessa to show madness. Gigi had to fight in the first semi-finals, and Tessa and Leia in the second. They were invited to the arena. Rose said she had been waiting for the opportunity to beat him for a long time. He replied that it was mutual. They shook their hands. It's time to start. The director gave a signal. The first semi-finals started, and immediately, an attack in the style of flowering Sakura. It became much faster. This thought lightning flashed into the head of the hero as soon as she rushed into a rapid offensive. He did not have time to block her attack. Every blow was accurate and ruthless. The speed became its main weapon. She tried to use the lightning of the blooming cherry, but the hero predicted it, easily parked every blow. He knew her style, not to repeat the technique twice. Already there were Sakura Knight and Lightning, so it is logical. It will be Sakura. And she used it. As soon as she was going to attack, he was behind. Leia commented that both use one style, but the hero is fighting gross power, almost cruel. The hero glanced at her mentally. She did not talk. He raised anger in it. He would lose her pure fencing. Everything became obvious. In the technique of the sword, she could have been removed by one fell. Rose returned to her first defeat. Then she also felt devastated. The director then asked if she would give up the proposal. Rose answered sharply. Leia smiled. What is the reason for this refusal? Rose replied. She already has a Sakura style perfectly, and does not need academies. It is more important for her to find a sword named Alan Rodorva. Leia smiled cunningly. Just this year, Alan enters school. And what will she say now? The Rose flashed her eyes and asked for details. That is why she came. Returning from the memories, the girl thought, she has no luxury to lose. She surrounded herself with a fiery aura. The hero remembered this strange feeling. The same energy was last time. The Rose released the carmine petals of Sakura and drove it into the trap. The hero suddenly saw a huge tree and realized that it was not just a landscape. Everyone saw a tree and shouted in surprise what it was beautiful. It was a reflection of her soul. Tessa, not understanding, asked what was the giant. Leia admitted, yes, it was a little inappropriate, but she was passionate. The director was surprised. He is like a granddaughter of the same old. She turned to Rosa, advising not to be ashamed. A storm of flowering petals began. The hero was surprised to think that Rosa learned to control even them. He answered the 8th sword, the technique of mythical hook, but Rosa again drove him into the trap, and the exit from it was even less obvious. Sakura petals circled in the air. The hero managed to repel the attack of Rosa, but felt the forces gradually leave him. What is it for power? He was surprised to me when the Rose again rushed into the Sakura-style battle, adding new energy to every blow. Her strength has increased clearly. The hero tried the counterattack, but she easily reflected it. He was confused, but wanted to win. However, every attempt was broken against the wall. And then he realized, Carmine Sakura is a reflection of the soul, and the source of strength is the Sakura tree behind it. This tree accumulates energy from everywhere, enhances its body, speed, and even petal attacks. The hero realized that if you destroy the tree, you can break the source of its strength. But will it work out? He tried but was amazed. The tree was incredibly strong. It's not just a projection. It's part of the other world. It is much harder to destroy it than it seems. Meanwhile, Rosa decided on the last step. She activated her secret technique. From that day, she prepared her after the first defeat. Training, mistakes, improvements, everything led to this point. And now she saw her goal clearly, to surpass him. Her spirit has become stronger than ever. But the hero appeared in front of her, like a phoenix from a flame. Her confusion lasted only a moment. She immediately gathered, responded to the 8th sword of the hero with her secret technique, flower in the chair. In response, he used a mythical hook. In a tense collision, she noticed, his power is already inhuman. He said that he only had a passion. She holds him on his feet. Rose was on the verge. After the Carmine Sakura, she rushed to attack without regret. The hero thought, she wants to end the fight in a state of strengthening. But her technique is the limit, isn't it? She looked straight at him. Yes, this is her last chance. In this attack, she put all the will and power of her soul. She asked him not to retreat, to use the core of the flower to take a stroke. The battle ended. They left the arena, and the hero sincerely apologized to the Rose for causing her. But she answered calmly, she lost again. Checkmate. If so goes on, you should not dream of victory. The Rose asked him not to think extra. This is not the end of history. From that moment on, it has just begun. But the conversation could wait. She told him not to lose anyone until her time came. If he does not lose her, everything will lose sense. In response, he advised her to go to the infirmary immediately. At this time, restorative work continued in the arena. Tessa said Lee that it was a fascinating battle. But you cannot give in. She apologized in advance, because she is not going to show mercy. The guy smiled and replied that he would also be taught. Then he went under the shower and looked into the mirror. Surprisingly, he didn't feel pain. His wounds were always healing quickly, but this time they started baked. Something was wrong. His body behaved strange again, and a single thought appeared in his head. It's all because of his true core. After trying to capture his body, physical abilities increased significantly. Is regeneration also a consequence? It was worth asking straight. Although he was at risk of getting on his head, but he worried about Tessa and Lee. It was necessary to hurry. It was at this point that he heard a strange sound. The fight is over. The director said with sadness, Tessa did everything she could, but she could not defeat the princess. Inspired by the Battle of Rosa, and sprayed on Tessa merciless blows. Leia wanted to start the finale, but both participants were exhausted, so they decided to make a short pause. But she was interrupted by Leia. She approached and said that the break was not needed. All burning. There is no point in delaying. She looked into his eyes and called to fight. He thought that she had not changed at all. And here is the final duel. Between the protagonist and the student Lai. The allies entered the arena. The hero felt a wave of nostalgia. 4 months have passed since the entry ceremony. There have been many during this time. Every day, the walls of the academy were full of struggle, trials, and takeoffs. Princess Leia exclaimed that she had been waiting for this moment for too long. The victory only belonged to her. The hero apologized, but said he had the right to lose, neither himself nor to her. From the infirmary, Rosa watched her friends and whispered that she believed in him to the last. The beginning of the battle. Leia caused the power of the ancestors. Its revelation became even more rapid. She attacked the black breath of the dragon, and the hero barely managed to dodge. The first sword he paired her strokes. She again applied the black breath of the dragon. His weapon seemed to her. A crack appeared in her protection. Was it really the same Leia he knew? Her lightness disappeared. They took a short pause. The hero confessed that he feels powerless before her power. She apologized. She could not let him control the battle. In addition, she has not shown everything yet, and released a powerful charge of energy. The hero noticed that the projectile is huge but slow. He still had a chance to dodge, but was it worth it? If you die, everything will end? He can still move, and it can still fight. Everything around the black smoke around. The hero thought that she had already decided. Victory. She was preparing the final blow. I am sure she won. But he reflected the attack. Though from the last forces, he neutralized the blow to the Lord. It was evident that Leia was training no less zealous. She did not rely on talent as others. Like the hero, she sought to overcome the boundary that kept it. The princess attacked again, shouting that she would win this time. In a moment, the hero saw himself in a reflection of the blade, and did not recognize. The hair was white. The look has changed. Leia was worried about whether everything was fine. He answered, nothing wrong. Just, the hair became white. She guessed, he returned. And maybe he really became a monster. This is the meaning of rivalry. She activated the soul of the dragon and attacked with new force. Leia declared a second round. The princess mentally returned to her first workout, sighed. She realized that the defeat was a consequence of inattention. If she made more effort, everything could have happened differently. However, now she realized that it is not negligent. He just became stronger than she was ready to accept. It is time to say goodbye to the weak and prove to everyone who is able to become a level. She rushed forward. Her attacks were frantic. The hero barely had time to steam. He confessed that in the duel he still had an advantage, but she objected. What kind of advantage is it if he could not win her? The powerful wave covered the hero, but he made his way through it. This technique became the point of breaking his soul. At that moment, Leia released the soul of the dragon. Seeing his surprise, she exclaimed that it was photometer. The black flames were rapidly approaching 3 directions. But the present is no longer the one before. He has incredibly reflected the attack, causing her a true surprise. At the same time, the hero used 8 swords and white scales, creating a new wave of pressure. After that, both needed rest. Leia realized that she had spent too much energy. The hero also felt fatigue. His technique demanded tremendous power. She asked if it was time to stop. He agreed, recognizing, this force is too unstable. Leia suggested to finish everything here and now, while both on her feet. Her body was almost burning from energy, and she warned. The next blow would be an attack of will and determination. The hero realized that she was too close. If it does not change the technique, it will burn alive. But this time he was ready. He was confident and waited for his moment. He thanked her. It was thanks to her that he could go on. And he activated the technique of 6 swords. He attacked an explosive roar. She responded with the breath of the dragon. In the swing of the battle, the hero saw Leia falling. The heart in the chest was squeezed with fear. The flames flashed next to it. She shouted that she was already going, but there was not enough strength. Alan raced, almost knocking it down. The director shouted in amazement, "What is the speed?" The wall of fire raged before him, but he did not stop, running, called by this flame. His goal was one, to stop it, but everything is useless. He did not manage to stop the fire. He began to understand. Only maximum efforts will give you a chance to save it. And he gathered all his will in one last jerk.